Chapter 701. Nothing seemed wrong. What do we do now? The souls looked sulky in the graveyard. What can we do? Run back and recover our corpses. 10 minutes later. Milk. More milk. How come I can't feel the healing effects at all? Where's the milk? Are you healing us? The 5 souls gathered in the graveyard again. What do we do now? The rogue felt like crying. This healing was almost non-existent, the dwarf warrior complained. The rogue asked tentatively, my game time is almost up. Should we stop now and try again next time? The moment he said it, he quitted from the group and got offline in one breath. Only 4 souls were left standing in the graveyard. It suddenly occurred to me, Adolf said immediately, I still have things to do. I will get offline now. Let's continue next time. Grand Mage Adolf left the party. This, Dwarf Elder Sock felt like today obviously wasn't his lucky day. It seems that we can't do it now. Let's continue next time. Sock Stonemer left the party. Dwarf Raff left the party. Elder Sewell was at a loss for words. She was frustrated with confusion. Is my milk really poisonous? Different from the previous games, World of Warcraft had separate interfaces for chatting. The players could open the game interface and check the messages in different channels including the World Channel and local channels. Players needed for Scarlet Monastery. Anyone can come. At this moment, Elder Sewell saw someone post this message in the channel for making parties. Elder Sewell froze. Anyone can come. The quest of mythology of Titans in World of Warcraft. Before the disaster struck Lord Aaron, there was a place in Tyrus Foul Glades where many books were stored, the library of the old monastery. It was said that the mythology of Titans was in this library. This old monastery was Scarlet Monastery. Besides the mythology of Titans, there were many other books in the monastery including Beginnings of the Undead Threat. These books would be of great help for Mr. Fang to complete the information about the background of World of Warcraft in the official novel and the official website. No one answered my party invitation from my Horde character. I'll try the Alliance character. Mr. Fang posted the invitation again, Scarlet Monastery. Anyone can come. Grand Mage Adolf requests to join the party. Sock Stonemer requests to join the party. Dwarf Raff requests to join the party. Sewell requests to join the party. The group was full instantly. Dumbfounded, Mr. Fang looked at the screen and thought, there are so many people from the Alliance. He was even more astonished that there was a nanny and a tank in the team. He didn't even have to look for a nanny now. My goodness, this guy has many ultimate blue rare items. Luxury items. The moment he entered the party, he heard these people gasping and talking to themselves. Then, Elder Sewell. Adolf's face turned stiff. Adolf, didn't you say that you had things to do? Elder Sewell frowned, finding that things were not as simple as they seemed. Adolf didn't know what to say. Leader, in the private chat channel, Mr. Fang suddenly received a message, can we change the nanny? Change the nanny? Why? Mr. Fang was puzzled. Druids can heal. This milk is poisonous. Elder Sewell was sizing up the night elf with the ID of Midnight Pig Butcher too. How come he looks quite familiar? How come they all say that your milk is poisonous? Elder Sewell suddenly received this private message. What? Elder Sewell was furious. Who are they talking about? Whose milk is poisonous? Did you forget to switch to Restoration Talent Specialization? Which spells did you use to heal? Ah! Elder Sewell thought for a second. Rejuvenation. What are Restoration Talents? You use Rejuvenation when the HP is not too low. Otherwise, use Healing Touch. Switch to the second page of the Talent Specializations. The system version had dual talent specializations, and find Restoration Talent, Mark of the Wild, Healing Touch, and, oh, Elder Sewell followed Fang Qi instructions and clicked on the options in confusion. What do these things mean? Why should I do this? I don't have time to explain them right now. You just have to follow my orders, Mr. Fang said. The newbie didn't know how to use the healing talent specialization. The problem is solved now. Let's enter. Oh, really? Adolf and others who had been killed several times by the healing looked doubtful. Of course. Follow my orders, and you'll pass. Come on and enter the instance. With that said, Fang Qi entered the instance. We enter. Elder Sok said, judging from his items, I think he might be a master player. Soon, the others entered the instance. Main tank, take position and block the way. Nanny, cast healing spells. Mist 2. Mage, Frost Nova. This time, the situation was many times better than before. The members in the front line fought with ease, and all the mobs bypassing them were cleared. That was easy. The healing is effective now. Awesome! Looking at the corpses on the ground and their own people who were almost intact, they exclaimed in surprise. Meanwhile, watching her teammates' wounds healing at a visible speed, Elder Sewell was also thrilled. This experience was totally different from the previous one. This life energy is so powerful. Now, I can heal. Elder Sewell thought happily. I will see who dares to say that my milk is poisonous. It must be noted that these healing spells could be learned. Besides, the druid class seemed to be custom-made for elves since their ideology, code of conduct, and even spells fit those of the elves perfectly. I'm surprised that they have such powerful healing spells. They are as powerful as holy light. Right now, Elder Sewell's mind was full of thoughts of mastering these spells and bringing them back to the elf clan. See? I was just unfamiliar with the spells. Elder Sewell said proudly. Hey, I see. Adolf finally nodded in agreement. I didn't know druids healed like this. Elder Sok was still puzzled but acknowledged her skills. The party soon came to the first boss, Hound Master Xi. Mr. Fang said, let me explain how to fight this boss. It's not difficult as long as we control the 3 dogs. Hound Master Xi was a small boss with ordinary power, but the 3 dogs were bothers. The mage could turn one of the 3 dogs into a sheep and the druid could put one to sleep with the spell named Hibernate. Then, they could focus fire on the last one. It was an easy task. Therefore, Fang Qi said, do you see the dogs? Mage, turn one to a sheep. Druid, sleep. And the rest of us focus fire and kill the last one. Understand? Mr. Fang asked. Sleep. Elder Sewell froze with some confusion. I guess, go. Mr. Fang dashed forward, and his flashing dagger hit the vital part of the boss with lightning speed. Meanwhile, Polymorph, Sheep had turned a fierce hound into a harmless little sheep. At this moment, Elder Sewell still didn't move. Sleep. Mr. Fang reminded her. Oh. Okay. Having not encountered any danger along the way, Elder Sewell was much more confident. He's really a master player, with his casual instructions, we've improved so much. Without hesitation, Elder Sewell lay down on the ground. After waiting for a long while for the hibernate spell which didn't come, Mr. Fang looked back and saw this scene. He shouted in shock, "What are you doing? Sleeping? Didn't you tell me to sleep?" Lying on the ground, Elder Sewell said in confusion as nothing seemed wrong to her. Is it too late to change my faith to holy light? Elder Sewell almost passed out in fury. I was wondering about your strange command. I thought this mystical realm of the Blizzard Workshop had come up with something miraculous. You could have asked me if you found it strange, you just told me not to ask questions since you didn't have time to explain. Elder Sewell was frustrated. Mr. Fang was at a loss for words. Forget it. Let's do it again. Nanny, use the hibernate spell to put one dog to sleep. The spells in the real world have different names in the games. Mr. Fang could only explain some basic terms. Usually, few people would explain these common terms to new players. The players wouldn't spend much effort to use or understand the formal names of the common skills or effects of different classes. Instead, they would give them vivid nicknames which had gradually become gaming terms. These terms were vivid and easy to understand for old players, making directing a raid simple and efficient. But for new players who had just begun to understand all kinds of new information in the games, it was difficult to make the connection. Right now, only a few big groups could take on an instance like Scarlet Monastery. I'll do a live stream and teach the beginners then. Since most players in the old shops had played games such as Diablo and could do raids by themselves after reading some guides, Mr. Fang put the live stream in the new shop. Ugh! Having just gotten offline, Dicas saw the big screen in the lounge area suddenly lighting up. Is the shop owner going to do a spiritual spell visual projection? The mages accompanying her looked up at the big screen curiously. Some orcs who had just entered the shop also looked over. He's also doing Scarlet Monastery. Dicas froze. As time went on, she had learned a lot while doing raids with old players and was no longer a newbie who knew nothing. This name. Isn't he the player who shouted outside the Scarlet Monastery that anyone could join his party? One nearby player said. Anyone? Many players froze. After all, this was the most difficult instance so far in the game. At this moment, Mr. Fang had begun the raid. As mentioned before, Hound Master Xi was indeed a small boss. With the assistance of Polymorph, Sheep and Hibernate spell, it was an easy raid since the members all had great strength and high-level combat skills in the real world. The boss in the library was Arcanist Doan. Different from the original game, the boss in the system version could cast all the mage spells on that level, including Presence of Mind, Polymorph, Sheep, Blink, Frost Nova, and Arcane Explosion. Of course, the only good news was that as a mage, this boss didn't have a tough physical body as other classes and didn't have as much HP. We can't use a tank to take all the damage of this boss all the time, Mr. Fang explained. It can blink, which makes it impossible for warriors to hold it off. But it has lower resistance to some controls when it blinks. If we have the right conditions, we can attack it in the instant that it makes a move. For example, the rogue can use Gouch. The moment he said it, a light flashed as the boss cast Blink, but Fang Qi dagger heavily struck out almost at the same time. The boss blinked and flew out. But when it flew before the druid, it fell into a controlled state. My goodness! We can actually do this! Not only the audience, but the members of the party froze at the scene as well. What are you waiting for? Quickly dish out damage. If the tank makes a mistake, the players in the back line must fend themselves, Mr. Fang added. For example, the mage can blink out to survive, and the druid can change into a bear. You must react very quickly. Obviously, the thick-skinned bear was hard to be instantly killed, which meant that the team could still fight it out if all teammates came up in time and helped. I got it, understanding dawned on many players. Led by Mr. Fang, the party made it narrowly. They are actually doing the last zone now. How come it feels like this instance isn't too difficult? At this time, Mr. Fang led the 4 members to the last zone of the whole instance. It was a grand and magnificent cathedral, the end of this instance. As mentioned before, we must clear the mobs before we meet the boss. Otherwise, the boss would summon them over while we fight. Fighting from both ends will only lead to a team wipeout. Is that so? So many Scarlet Crusaders, the battle was fierce and dangerous, but Fang Qi still gradually led his party to the boss. The paladin dressed in blood-red armor was Mograine, the commander and leader of Scarlet Crusaders. Some rumors said that he had taken the power and controlled the Scarlet Crusaders by killing his father. There were also other rumors saying that Mograine killed his father since the latter didn't approve of his love toward someone. The old man demanded his son to strictly abide by the ancient creeds for the paladins and treat ladies with respect and good manners. Paladins had the duty to protect ladies but didn't have the right to possess them because emotions and lust would weaken the paladin's will to fight. The paladins followed very strict creeds and ancient virtues of humility, honor, valor, sacrifice, mercy, faith, honesty, and justice. This was why not many players changed to these classes such as Paladin and Priest despite the class's abilities with Holy Light and Resurrection. Not all players could abide by these creeds, nor could Mograine. Of course, the real reason was probably the temptation from demons. Finally, he became a traitor detested by everyone. This boss is easy too, Mr. Fang continued explaining. In your eyes, every boss is easy. Who isn't? BTIC's face turned dark. Obviously, the new players had some issues in cooperation. Under Mr. Fang's command, it took them a long time to make Mograine fall down. They passed just like that. Many players started breathing heavily. It doesn't seem to be very difficult. However, at this moment, everyone saw a figure dashed out from the back of the cathedral. It was a female priest dressed in a blood-colored priest robe. Arise! My champion! At your side, milady! Bathed in golden holy light, the last boss resurrected under everyone's gaze. What's happening? The audience froze. The boss that the players had worked hard to kill just resurrected with full HP. In the quest of Tome of Divinity and in the recovery of corpses in the instances, the resurrection spells could only be cast in an absolutely quiet environment, which was a very strict requirement. But at this moment, they saw resurrection being properly used in a battlefield. Just imagine the scenario: a powerful enemy finally fell at your feet after a hard fight. While you were in your most fatigued and relaxed state, you suddenly heard someone yell, "Arise, my champion," and then the powerful enemy you had just killed stood up intact, bathing in holy light. What would you feel then? Isn't this just a live stream teaching session for beginners? Have they found out what had happened? It seems like not yet. In the endless void, a huge shadow seemed to be spreading in silence. Hovering in the dark void, it emitted death and horror that could swallow everything. As if summoned by something, it got closer and closer to the huge continent. Sitting in the high and dark void, its huge eye looked down and monitored everything that was happening in the world. Ms. BTIC, do you think there really are gods in the world? What are you talking about? Those miracles and catastrophes were not fake, and the ruins of those catastrophes can still be seen in some nations. You're right. On the screen, Mr. Fang's livestream teaching session for beginners was approaching the end. Now, you're facing two bosses. But still, you must attack and kill these mobs with well-organized moves. You need to kill the priest first before handling the paladin, Mr. Fang said. High Inquisitor Sally Whitemane was a powerful priestess and accompanied Commander Mograine as his lover. She had a more powerful resurrection spell than the one that players had. The players were not strangers to resurrection since they had seen it in Diablo 2. The Lords of Hell in Diablo had been killed many times, but their souls still remained in the world. Likewise, the resurrection spells of World of Warcraft could pull back the players' souls, repair their bodies, and bring them back to life. It was well known that the conditions required for the resurrection spell that the players had learned were very strict. Even though the paladins and priests in the game were extremely devoted and faithful by default, they could only cast the spell in an extremely quiet environment without any disturbance. If the players were attacked during the casting process, the spell would be interrupted. However, Whitemane only needed to put the players to sleep for a little while and then quickly cast the resurrection spell. We must kill this priestess first, Mr. Fang said, otherwise, you'll face a paladin who can't be killed. Of course, it wasn't easy to kill the priestess who stood behind and was protected by a powerful and fierce paladin. If the enemies had a mage with them, they could form a team of warrior, mage, and priestess to battle the players since paladins could count as half a warrior. Their current partnership of warrior and priestess was still a combination very hard to defeat. So, we need a nimble class which can bypass the paladin. Meanwhile, Our tank must hold off the enemies on the front line. In fact, this was more like a PvP instead of PvE. It was how it felt like when 5 low-level, poorly equipped players fought with 2 high-level, well-equipped players with special abilities. It must be noted that in the system version of World of Warcraft, Mograine would flee with Whitemana's corpse after they were defeated. Only when someone took back the fallen Ashbringer from Mograine's father, Old Mograine, who had been resurrected as one of the powerful 4 horsemen under the Lich King, could Mograine be finally killed. Of course, that wouldn't happen for a long time. With the boss fleeing, the players looted in a different way compared to the original version. After Fang Qi and his party defeated their enemies, a loot chest appeared in the center of the cathedral. Loot gathered after searching the cathedral. Aegis of the Scarlet Commander. The attributes are so good. With such a shield, the tank will be unrivaled. The equipment triggered waves of exclamations. Of course, Mr. Fang backed out of that conversation since his purpose was teaching the new players some basic knowledge and terms in the game. Female Knight Helen of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion came to the shop very late today. She didn't play the game through the night yesterday, but her face looked haggard. Lately, she always dreamed of some strange and weird things, which gave her an inexplicable feeling. Fear could erode and eat away one's will like a horrifying plague. At this moment, an invisible plague seemed to be spreading in the crowd silently. In the distant Silver Moon forest of the Elf clan, several elders of the Elf clan gathered on the bank of the mirror-like lake. Do you sense the force of horror in the darkness? The silver-haired and silver-bearded old elf murmured, it's getting stronger each day. Fear can erode people's will, and darkness will swallow their remaining consciousness. Eventually, they will become the puppets of fear. We must find the followers of those shadows as soon as possible, another elder said, we can't let it continue. Otherwise, we'll completely lose all power to resist them when they arrive. Ah! In the new shop, a shrill scream sounded. Helen seemed to have bumped into someone and then jumped away like a startled rabbit. What's wrong with you? You scared me, Mr. Fang looked at her disapprovingly. No, nothing. Her voice was as quiet as the buzzing of a mosquito's wings. I'll go and get online. Am I so scary? He did nothing but send this girl flying with a sneeze before. At this moment, Fang Qi seemed to feel a tiny but extremely creepy force invading his brain. Mr. Fang shivered, but this force seemed to have done no harm to him and soon disappeared. At this moment, Fang Qi suddenly received a new prompt. With the number of players in the new shop reaching 5,000, a special movie will be activated in the new shop. You have obtained the right to release the special movie, The Avengers, in the new shop, and you can also choose to release it in the old shops at the same time. New task, a new round of mental strength cultivation task objective. As a shop owner, you must have a tougher mind than the customers. Please enter the game cultivation room for special training until the task is finished. Task reward, Outlast, Virtual Reality Remake. Task description, after training in this game, our mental fortitude will be even more powerful. Although the system had once released Silent Hill, which could also toughen one's mental strength, the bigger feature of that game was to remove inner demons and patch up the holes in people's minds. Obviously, this game was a bit different. Outlast. Mr. Fang glanced at the system interface, and his expression turned dark. Your aim is not to strengthen my mind but to shatter it, right? Words appeared on the system interface, a product of the system. Her body emitted a layer of faint crystal white lights, and her feet that were as beautiful as jade seemed to leave radiant light prints on the ground with each step she took. The Centennial Gods Banquet will be held in midsummer of next year, the voice said coldly. The time for the Gods Banquet comes again, Saint Dolan said emotionally. I remember that Princess Your Highness has solely taken the holy seat for several banquets consecutively. It's an honor that has never been heard before. The woman shook her head coldly and said, I've been absent from it for a long time now. Now, you must be sitting on the judgment seat. Saint Dolan asked cautiously. It was probably one of the positions closest to the gods in the whole continent. The gods' banquet was a gala held in the Nora continent, and it only invited followers of gods. In the banquet, only godly and immortal spells could be used, which was said to be the agreement among the gods in ancient times. It was said that the winners of the gala would not only get the chance to show the people in the world their devotion to their gods, they would also win the favors from the gods they believed in. They could even enjoy the banquet blessed by the gods. It was a rare opportunity for all the cultivators who studied godly and immortal spells. The participants could be followers of any god. Of course, this banquet was usually used to test the devotion of the followers in the younger generation. Saint Dolan looked very humble, as if the projected image of this woman had a higher position than him. "Farewell, Princess, Your Highness." He didn't look up until the white projected image gradually disappeared. "Mr. Dolan." At this moment, a large, middle-aged man with a wide forehead and wide cheeks walked to stand before Saint Dolan respectfully. Dolan nodded and said, "The gods' banquet will begin soon. I need to select some elite young people from the godly palace." "Yes." The middle-aged man said, "My lord, about kicking out the outlanders." Saint Dolan gave him a long look and said, "Sir Payable, you seem to have some ideas. Tell me your thoughts." "To kick them out, we must find their weaknesses. Just as the East Continent people say, know your enemy as well as you know yourself." Payable was Dolan's most trusted and most competent subordinate, and it was rumored that he would become Dolan's successor in the near future. "Go on." Saint Dolan nodded his encouragement. "We have found some information about this shop and its customers." He handed the documents to Saint Dolan. The Golden Griffin Knight Legion in Kanglan City of the Morning Light Empire was absent from work for one day due to them playing World of Warcraft through the night. The Morning Light Land Knight Legion of the Orc Kingdom neglected a kingdom leader while they talked about World of Warcraft with magic letters when they were on duty. Alchemy Master Hebrew secretly read the guides of professional skills in World of Warcraft while he was practicing alchemy in the Alchemist Union of Chrisen Kingdom, causing very negative consequences. His behavior infuriated the high-level officials of the Union. He continued reading, "Aslan Royal Magic Workshop already forbids its mages and alchemists from talking about anything related to World of Warcraft during work." However, these people watched the spiritual spell visual projection named Mr. Fang's livestream teaching session for beginners. And they severely delayed the creation process of some very important alchemy items. Elder Sewell of the Elf clan seems to have neglected her duties as an elder for a long time because of the mystical realm named World of Warcraft. "Yes, my lord." Payable said loudly, "I think the so-called Origins Internet Club and the mystical realm named World of Warcraft have affected people's normal life and work like poison. People even secretly watched the spiritual spell visual projection during work time right under the nose of their superiors. It's horrible. Besides, its influence even extended to the aristocrats in the distant Orc Kingdom. We can take use of it and ask the owners of the workshops, union presidents, kings, and leaders to ban everything about this mystical realm. Otherwise, the workshops will go bankrupt, and the kingdoms will decline and go corrupt sooner or later. Of course, I don't think it's proper for us to interfere, but with such solid evidence against the shop, we can ask the empires to issue new policies together and make it hard for the customers of the Origins Internet Club to continue their visits to the shop. Before long, no one will take such huge risks and enter the shop run by these damn people from the East Continent. Of course, when they lose their jobs, I don't think they can afford to enter that place." Payable laughed while saying. "Ahem," Saint Dolan nodded and said, "Do as you see fit. If you have questions, I'm always here for you." "Don't worry, my lord," Payable sneered, "I'm not a clown like Luther." "Ah! Achoo!" Mr. Fang exited from the game and did a big stretch before sneezing for no reason. "Lately, I have a feeling that some people are talking about me." Mr. Fang rubbed his nose and thought for a moment. Then, he gave up this futile effort after being unable to come up with an explanation. "Maybe some pretty girls miss my handsome face even though I seldom go out." The system was at a loss for words, but it wanted to strongly detest what the ordinary-looking Mr. Fang had said. It seemed like he had no idea of what was going on. Obviously, without any acute senses, the players in the shop didn't realize that danger was getting close to them. As time went on, many players had passed all the instances of Scarlet Monastery. Even Commander Elvin, who had probably joined a party due to some friendly deals, had luckily got the much-coveted Deadman's Hand, one of the few purple epic items in World of Warcraft. "I've graduated from Scarlet Monastery." Lounging in his computer chair, Commander Elvin looked idle. "Commander," at this moment, a paladin of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion got close to him and said, "Now that you've gotten such good equipment, should we go to South Shore and kill the despicable horde people who keep ambushing our alliance people who are doing quests?" "Good idea." Commander Elvin's eyes lit up. Feeling harassed, a group of people glared at him at a loss for words. "For the horde! For the horde!" An orc with a lion head sat before his computer and roared with his eyes glued on the official novel, Rise of the Horde, on the screen. "If you howl again, I'll kick you guys out." Hearing the howls, Mr. Fang singled them out with a dark expression. "Rise of the Horde is such a touching story." The lion man rubbed his teary eyes apologetically. "I'll be quiet next time." The moment Mr. Fang left, the group of orcs yelled, "Way! Rise of the Horde is such a sad and grand story." They banged their fists on the desks. With a dark expression, Mr. Fang turned his head instantly. Ugh! The noises stopped immediately. At this moment, the paladins had set out for South Shore. "For light and justice. May the holy light be with you. Let's see if our alliance people are being threatened by those damn horde people. Protecting the weak is the duty of the paladins." Commander Elvin shouted. Hillsbrad foothills were located south of the Alterac Mountains and northwest of the Irati Highlands. To its south was the ocean. South Shore was the biggest settlement in Hillsbrad. At this moment, the smirk face emoji player had created another mage character and was doing quests at the moment. It glanced at the list of quests. "It seems like it wants me to release a lich." South Shore Graveyard. The mage player with the ID Almighty Demon God followed the map and came to the position as instructed by the quest. This must be the place. In the South Shore, several guards stared at him from a distance with glints in their eyes. 10 seconds later you're dead. Do you want to release your soul to the nearest graveyard? What happened? The smirk face emoji player froze when it saw a few guards dashing out from somewhere. Again, 10 minutes later you're dead. Do you want to release your soul to the nearest graveyard? You dare to mess with me? Your days are numbered. In the half-city shop, the black cloud hovering in the air turned darker as it yelled in his livestream chat, "Anyone in here?" Black Demon replied, "Yeah, what's up? I was blocked by some NPCs while I was doing a quest. Bad luck." "Where?" "I'll come." "I'm coming." 10 minutes later South Shore is under attack. Local defense, South Shore is under attack. Here come the horde people. Commander Elvin's eyes brightened. Then, the Knights of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion set out valiantly. In the South Shore graveyard, about 4 mages and warlocks were drawing away the guards of South Shore. "Ha ha ha ha! I will finish the quest soon. Thank you, guys." The small mage who was about level 30 walked up happily, ready to hand in the quest. Suddenly, he saw a golden flash. Hammer of Judgment. Seal of Righteousness. Seal of Command. Sacrifice. Exorcism. May the holy light be with you. Ah! With a shrill scream, Almighty Demon God dropped to the ground instantly. Inside the half-city shop, the smirk face emoji slammed its fists on the desk furiously. "How come you're dead again?" Other players looked over in bafflement. They watched as more than 10 paladins spread out valiantly in one line while riding horses. "May the holy light be with you. Die. Accept the judgment of justice. F***ck. How come there are so many people? Frost Nova! Run! 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 How come they have horses? The horde people were green with envy since horses were very valuable and expensive in this era. For paladins, they would be given a small horse when they reached level 40. Ha 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 ha! Commander Elvin and the other Golden Griffin Knights laughed wildly. Stupid horde people! I'll see if you dare to sneak attack South Shore again. We're the Golden Griffin Knight Legion. We'll protect the peace of South Shore forever. Lying on the ground, Black Demon's face turned stiff. You just wait. They dare to mess with our Black Demon Guild. Lying on the ground with a dark expression, Black Demon was furious. What's he babbling about? The Golden Griffin Knights exchanged a look and didn't know what was going on. After all, the players in the Alliance didn't understand the language of the Horde. Today, I'll smash your damn dog heads! Black Demon yelled. Call as many as you can. For the holy light and justice. Suddenly, Commander Elvin felt great pressure coming from behind him. He looked back and saw hundreds of Horde players gathering outside of South Shore, looking like a black mountain in a black sea. How come there are so many people? The paladins of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion turned pale instantly. What now? You still want to block us? Commander Elvin didn't understand their words but could roughly guess what they were saying at this moment. We didn't know that you had so many people. Hundreds of people instantly surrounded the Golden Griffin Knights. Commander, what do we do? A Golden Griffin Knight swallowed saliva with difficulty as he watched the big crowd gather before him. You dare to block my quest? A smirk face emoji player's expression was dark in fury. Today, you can't get away even if you have wings. Retreat! Commander Elvin yelled. Silently, the knights each took out a stone engraved with a rune. Then, a streak of pale light rose around them. What are they doing? Black Demon yelled in surprise. You dare to cast hearthstones in front of us? Interrupt them! Interrupt them all! Bang! 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 Boom! 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 The smirk face emoji player led hundreds of players to launch wild attacks on the paladins. The paladins didn't move a muscle. Bang! 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 Boom! 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 Their eyes almost popped out when they saw that the paladins were still intact while using the hearthstones. Swoosh! All the paladins vanished. Ahya! The smirk face emoji almost spewed blood as he saw that they fled using this method. I'm furious. Furious. How could they do this? Black Demon was also stupefied with rage. Today, I'll smash every Alliance player's head. Charge into South Shore and kill everyone for me. He was about to go crazy. Crazy. On the other side, the Alliance led by the Human Kingdom, Stormwind City, had begun to form an alliance with different races such as the Elf race and Dwarf race. While the hidden conspiracies slowly spread on the land, the dangers left from ancient times still threatened the safety of the Alliance and the Horde. However, after the retreat of the Burning Legion, it was clear that their biggest enemy was each other. In South Shore, which was heavily guarded by Alliance guards, all players received an ear-piercing prompt: South Shore is under attack. South Shore is under attack. What's wrong? What happened? There were many Alliance players doing quests in South Shore, including Mercenary Crete and his mercenary group. The mercenaries didn't have stable game time every day, but Mercenary Crete had already reached higher than level 30. He had quite a few eye-catching blue rare items looted from Scarlet Monastery. It's annoying that I didn't encounter any Horde players in the wilderness. Yesterday, I made about 7 honorable kills. Yesterday, I killed one Horde player who was over level 40. The mage named Lily, Crete's friend and one of the first customers of the new shop, said proudly, "These Horde people are all noobs." Look! What's that? A nearby rogue suddenly pointed at a spot outside South Shore. A large group of horde players swarmed into the town like tigers released from cages. The group of players who were a little over level 30 but were still half new to the game didn't have time to react. Charge! Shadow Bolt! Lightning Bolt! Backstab! They all dropped to the ground. What's that? My goodness! So many horde people, without warning, the entirety of South Shore was swallowed by magic spells and sword and saber energies. Butcher! Butcher them all! Today, crush the heads of these damn Alliance people! Soon, South Shore was littered with corpses of Alliance players, and many undead, Tauren, and Orc players danced on these corpses smugly. Ha 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 ha! I killed over a dozen. I feel like my prestige rank is about to increase. In the half-city shop, a black cloud hovering in the air laughed wildly while wearing a virtual reality headset. We new players can't do quests now. The big white deer had been playing a new druid character who belonged to the Alliance, enjoying itself by turning into a cat or bear. However, the moment it entered the game today, it was struck to the ground by all kinds of magic spells. Now, it was lying on the ground with tears in its eyes. We need masters to help us. There are so many horde people. Then, she received the party invite from Elvin. She received a party invite from Big Sword Crete. She received. I'll summon my brothers from the Mercenary Union. They dare to bully newbies of our alliance. Shame on them. They pulled out the fraction channel on the game interface. Brothers. The horde butchered our South Shore and even our newbies. Can we tolerate this atrocity? Brothers with hot blood enter the group. Let's kick out these pieces of garbage. Sell myself to play WoW requests to join the group. Lichen makeup requests to join the group. Requests to join the group. Instantly, group requests flooded the screen. In World of Warcraft, the players got all the information about the races and classes and even details of each faction. They could even earn gold coins with the professional skills in the game to pay for the cost of playing the game. They felt as if it was an alternative universe that they lived in. Yes, they lived here, performing alchemy, opening shops, cooking food, and making machinery. They could find almost anything that they wanted to do in this world. There was more than just battling in this world. This was why players had a strong sense of ownership and honor. For example, the paladins had sworn to protect the weak with their swords and shields, so they couldn't sit back and watch at this moment. Similarly, the druids had once made the promise to their beloved forests, "We'll shatter all barriers with sharp teeth and claws while roaring. Maybe years later, I can return to this place and enjoy eternal peace while leaning on the tree of life." Now facing the invasion of their biggest enemy faction, the Horde, how could they back off? Therefore, even the players from different guilds began to organize themselves indignantly. They worked together all by themselves without needing orders from above. They felt as if this was their duty and honor. Brothers of the Alliance, enter the group and counterattack the invasion of South Shore. A hoarse roar resonated in the whole faction. On this continent, humans were respectful toward the gods. It would be better described as fear, a fear for the great power of the unknown existence that ruled over all species. The innate fear that the lower-level creatures had toward the higher-level existences had been engraved in their bones. This fear couldn't be changed overnight. Different from the bustle in World of Warcraft, some spots in the shop were quite peaceful. Not everyone was involved in the big fight. For example, Elder Sewell, a peace-loving elf, never read messages in the faction's chat channel. At this moment, she was searching for useful minerals in Duskwood. Suddenly, she saw a message jumping out from that QQ in the bottom right corner of her screen. Trailer for the Avengers? What's this? Elder Sewell froze, then, she casually clicked it open. Humans were made to be ruled. A blood-colored setting sun shined lights on the tall buildings that had a totally different architectural style, and the voice that sounded like that of an evil god whispered at her ears. The movie recreated by the system made everything as real as it could be. It even made the voices in the movie sound so real, let alone the power level in it. A horrifying force swept across the whole city, knocking down buildings and setting all the cars on fire. Yay! Elder Sewell almost jumped up from her seat. What's this? Ugh! Elder! What are you watching? The elves beside her looked over. It seems, Elder Sewell calmed herself down. It seems to be a story about an evil god's invasion of Earth and the people's resistance to the invasion, huh? An evil god? Can humans resist gods? Another elf said in surprise. Mr. Fang had just walked past them, and he said to the system while putting his hands on his forehead, awesome. Proud and lofty, the system didn't reply. Yay! The shop has free stuff. Elf girl Sala was delighted. I thought the shop owner charges money for everything. Now, I see that he's a nice guy. Then, she activated QQ free of charge. Sure enough, she received a recommendation, trailer of The Avengers. Ugh! Sala clicked on it immediately. They had heard about the movie Resident Evil 2 in the shop but hadn't watched it. Ugh! This city looks similar to the one shown in Resident Evil. Sala recognized the similarity since it was a style different from any city on the continents she knew. What is Resident Evil? Elder Sewell looked puzzled. What's that? It is the first mystical realm in this shop, Sala said. I watched Ms. Helen play it before, it looked quite interesting. I'll watch the trailer of The Avengers first, she continued. I heard that it's a type of mystical realm that, we can't control, just like the images left by the ancient elves in the Elf Royal Palace. Be careful. Elf Elder Sewell warned, be careful of the voice of that evil god, and his words are full of temptation and degeneration. I'm being careful. Elder, elf girl Sala whispered. Then, she watched the trailer with great caution as if even a tiny sound would alert an extremely horrifying existence. In the city full of skyscrapers built with reinforced concrete and steel, seeming to be able to reach the sky, soldiers walked around with great caution as if they were watching out for a demon. Different from the original movie, the system version recreated each detail to correspond to the characters' backgrounds and abilities. For example, the characters' looks. When the black-clothed figure who was carrying a scepter looked up, people saw his wicked face and abyss-like deep eyes. Even one glance at him would make people shiver with an inexplicable fear. For another example, the viewers could feel the bone-deep despair of the humans who were fleeing from the catastrophe even from the screen. We get ready. Sala watched as the people in the trailer finally blew the trumpet for the counterattack. There was an idea to bring together a group of remarkable people. When we needed them, they could fight the battles that we never could. I think this movie will be great. Pleasantly surprised, Sala grabbed Elder Sewell's arm and said, this must be a great legendary story full of sorrows and great deeds. What are you watching? Obviously, Sala's loud voice alerted other elves near them. We're watching the trailer of The Avengers. Excited, Sala recommended it to the other elves. In the movie, a horrifying evil god is trying to rule the humans. You can't imagine how scary that evil god is. Elder Sewell said, if you see him, you will freak out. Evil god? A god that is evil. Rowling, a member of the Snow Pigeon team, almost shivered when she heard it. How can such a horrifying creature exist in the world? They had seen the gods in the East Continent when they played the Legend of the Sword and Fairy, but those gods were fair and abided by rules. But now, there is an evil god. She jumped to one side like a startled rabbit and said, I don't want to watch it. Ah, Captain Lance lamented, this must be a great story just like the one depicted in the epic legends. No. I even have a feeling that it's greater than the epic legends since their enemy is a god. What are you guys talking about? What god? Hearing the ever louder voices, the players who didn't join the defense battle in South Shore looked over. The Avengers. Captain Lance said in a loud voice, you'll know how horrifying that evil god is after you watch it. Ah! Beside them, Rowling almost jumped up with fear. Please don't mention it again. She looked so frightened as if the evil god could raise the whole elf clan to the ground with one wave of his hand. After all, there were such existences in this world. They were especially afraid because that evil god is so scary. He has a voice that can lure people to fall into an abyss. He has a chilly and creepy look, and demon-like horns. Hearing Sala's words, the elves who listened with perked-up ears screamed and almost shed tears of fear. Is there really such a horrifying evil god? I think this must be a horrifying catastrophe, one elf commented. I think we will watch how the humans on this earth flee from the catastrophe. Can we really watch this movie? Some elves exclaimed. Can these people defeat this evil god? I won't watch it if they can't do it. The elves were truly freaked out. When the players died in World of Warcraft, they had only two options. One was to resurrect in the camp with resurrection sickness and couldn't do anything when the negative buff was there, and the other was to run to their corpses and revive there with little HP to be killed again by the players who were guarding the corpses. While these elves talked about the trailer of the Avengers, the situation in the battleground of South Shore changed again. The mercenary players in the new shop didn't have masters with top-tier equipment, but they had the advantage of numbers. In the whole shop, the biggest group was the mercenaries. Since they were playing the game on and off, some of them hadn't reached level 30 yet, but they all rushed over from the nearby towns. With almost 1,000 players gathering in South Shore, this place was crammed. For the Horde. Bedlam broke out in South Shore. Countless corpses and endless blood of the Alliance players and the Horde players formed a wave of red and black shadows in this small border town under the light of the setting Sunday way. Don't chase me! Look at the dying paladin! Why don't you chase him? In the Yuanyang City shop, a big white deer sitting in its computer chair cried desperately while controlling its little druid character to flee wildly on the screen. For the Alliance, ha ha ha! This Horde player was killed by the guard. Ha 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 ha! I'll die from laughing, it suddenly laughed heartily. Little Bell. A clear voice came from behind. My leave for experience is granted. Do you want to go to the new shop with me and have fun? Yes. 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 Bright glints flashed in the pair of black crystal-like deer eyes. I want to see the cute elves. I wonder if the orcs are as dull as the Taurens. It immediately put down the virtual reality headset. On the battlefield, the Alliance and the Horde players were still fighting fiercely. Ha ha ha! I feel like I will soon be promoted. My prestige rank will level up. Me too. Frostbolt. Presence of mind. Blades storm. On the screens, humans, dwarves, orcs, and elves fought fiercely with each other in a state of great chaos. At this moment, Mr. Fang was leveling up with some of the members of his heaven-defying online games guild. Of course, despite its overbearing name, this guild had a peace-loving principle and mainly engaged in leisure activities, and the idle members chatted each day in the guild in a friendly and harmonious atmosphere. Boss. Mr. Fang was surprised to see this message from Zhang Xiaoyu. You promised to take me to see the elves, angry face. Oh. Did I? Mr. Fang was having a practice battle in Orgrimmar and had just obliterated an orc warrior. He thought for a second and replied, oh, I seem to have said something like that. What do you mean by seem like it? Zhang Xiaoyu was so angry that she wanted to bite him. Did you forget? Mr. Fang's face stiffened since he had put all his time in the game in the past few days and indeed forgotten it. Ah! This, absolutely not. Mr. Fang looked as sincere as he could. I've been busy with work lately and didn't have time. That's all. Then, when do you have time? Humph. I have time now. Okay. I'll forgive you this time. Today, I want to go and see elves with Little Bell. No problem. After all, Mr. Fang had the duty to promote harmony among the players from different shops. Are you in the shop? I'll come over now. Mr. Fang went upstairs. On the way to the staff dorms, there was a giant hollow golden gate that was engraved with mysterious patterns. He knocked on the gate. Ugh! No response. Meanwhile, in the half-city shop, a black cloud hovered before a computer close to the counter. In the Horde Battle Command channel in half-city shop, a player with the ID Almighty Demon God was standing before the microphone stand. Clear them all. Clear all the Alliance players in this area. Follow me. Do you see them over there? Are the Alliance people still standing there like morons? Wipe them out. Wipe them out for me. Its voice was passionate while messages popped up in QQ like crazy. It switched out of the game and replied, "Who is it? Don't bother me. I'm commanding the battle." Seeing this, Mr. Fang directly kicked the gate. At this moment, the orcs heard a soul-wrenching howl in the Horde's battle command channel. "Wipe them out for me. Wipe. Ayo. Ayo. Almighty Demon God suddenly said, I have some urgent business. Ayo. It got offline immediately as if its butt was on fire. Black Demon said, F***CK. How can we go on without the commander? Let's stop it here. Stop. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Why don't you command it? Old Black, some cultivators asked. Can't do it. I've got to get offline in less than 1 hour. What's happening? At this moment in the New Kanglan City shop, an orc with a lion head looked around in puzzlement. After the guild members left, the number of Horde players dropped sharply, leaving only a large group of independent players who moved like headless flies now that they didn't have many people to follow. Meanwhile, about 2,000 Alliance players swarmed toward them like the black waves of an ocean. How come they are all gone? Where are they? The orcs who had just resurrected watched as large groups of Alliance players swarmed up while the Horde players scrambled to flee. Go! Let's kill some more! Charge! Blades storm! In less than 10 seconds, they all fell to the ground. Like black waves, the Alliance players swarmed into Terran Mill in the north. A few new players who were about level 20 had just arrived and only got a glimpse of this Horde camp when the waves almost instantly engulfed them. Seeing the cruelly trampled Terran Mill, the orcs' eyes turned red. Coming back after resurrection, the Horde players saw more than 1,000 Alliance players swarming over like groups of locusts. They also saw the corpses of the new Horde players on the ground. A few orcs directly raised their long sabers and axes before charging over. For the Horde. Then, they were engulfed instantly. At this time, in World of Warcraft, each death came with high equipment repair costs. However, these orcs spared no thoughts to it and came back again. Soon, several orcs appeared on the horizon, and they fell again. For some people, this was only a virtual world, and they didn't take things happening in here seriously after seeing many ups and downs. But for some other people, the world meant much more to them. It could be said that they were naive and reckless, but they had put their feelings into this world and formed a sense of honor for this place. Again, the Horde players charged into the Horde camp which had become empty after the slaughter. How come these people aren't escaping? Are they stupid? F***CK. I killed this orc instantly with one saber strike. Their equipment should all be damaged. I guess they can't afford to repair the equipment. Maybe they won't return. Some Alliance players murmured to themselves. The orcs fell again and again. Each time they fell, they got up again and charged. It felt as if they knew that this was meaningless, like a mantis trying to stop a car. They wanted to contribute their efforts. Our Horde can't defeat them, an orc lamented and howled. Again, charge again. Upon entering the class, these orc warriors took the oath. Heaven is on the left, and the warriors turned to the right. These orc warriors felt as if they were empowered by a fearless strength. They charged. And they fell again. In World of Warcraft, the detestable enemies sometimes had admirable qualities as well, regardless if they were naivety or recklessness. One alliance warrior bowed to the orcs since he understood their feelings as a warrior. The warriors had no regard for their lives while they charged into the battle. Let's go. Many alliance players started to cast their hearthstones. When they reached the door, they quickly moved back immediately. Is it the right place? They saw a lowly with exquisite facial features sitting at the counter with a big white deer. Where's the shop owner? Sir, some people are sneaking glances at us by the door. Are they trying to steal something? The sharp-eyed Zhang Xiaoyu pointed at the door and yelled. Ah! Mr. Fang stood up and saw a large group of elves walking in. Yay! They are elves! Zhang Xiaoyu exclaimed, and her big round eyes widened. How come there are so many? Yay! What do I see? The big white deer rubbed its eyes with its front hooves incredulously. I see many elves too. Their ears are pointy. Ugh! I seem to see a talking deer. Elf girl Sala suspected that her eyes were playing tricks on her. This deer can talk. Of course. Of course. Little Belle yelled excitedly. The elf's eyes brightened. Sir, is this an orc of the deer clan? I've never seen a white one before. Orcs are green-skinned, right? There are no white orcs. They watched as the deer walked from behind the counter. Yeah. Instantly, the elves shrieked. It's indeed a deer. Sir, where did you capture such a deer? I want one too. Nonsense. This must be a holy beast. Only holy beasts can talk. The elves surrounded the deer, looking at it up and down and poking it frequently. Ah ha 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 ha. What are you doing? It's itchy. It's itchy. The deer almost fell to the ground as if it was having a stroke. My goodness! A thought occurred to Sala. Is it a demon from the legends? What do you mean from the legends? Little Belle brushed the dust off its body and asked with its baby voice. I'm from the demon clan. Little Belle introduced itself. This is our princess, Xiaoyu Her Highness. Sir, are they elves? Zhang Xiaoyu asked in a low voice. Princess Your Highness, the elves obviously hadn't seen real demons before. Do you mean this little girl is also a? Do you have Lu Mengli in your world? The elves widened their eyes as if they were trying to see if this little girl would change into another form soon. Do you live in the demon realm? Oh. I'm not from the Taper clan. Zhang Xiaoyu explained, the demon realm is an imaginary world in the legend of Sword and Fairy. With great curiosity, she looked at the elves in amazement. How come you're all white-skinned? Are there dark elves among you? We don't have dark elves. Don't be misled by the owner's game in the shop. Sala said angrily with her hands on her hips. We don't have that many kinds among us. Ugh! At this moment, Helen, Commander Elvin, and other Golden Griffin Knights walked into the shop. They exclaimed in surprise, Ms. Sala, did this deer just talk? Did I see it wrong? Hello, guys! Little Belle greeted them friendly. Ah! Are my eyes playing tricks on me? May the holy light be with me. This isn't real. How come the deer can talk? At this moment, an orc with a head that looked like that of a Shiba Inu walked into the shop. He was wearing a red scarf, looking dominant. Today, I'll continue the broadcast of World of War. With one foot over the threshold, he suddenly froze on the spot. Look, is that deer talking? The audience watching Mr. Dirk's spiritual spell visual projection quickly wrote down comments on the magic letter. Is this a mutated member of the deer clan? I've never seen a white deer-headed person before, maybe our eyes are playing tricks on us. I feel like it's a real deer, my goodness. Mr. Dirk joined them. What's going on? Are there our own kinds on this continent? Little Belle stared at the dog-head man curiously. This is an orc. Elves hurried to explain, this cute little white deer is from the demon clan. Lu Mengli's clan in the legend of Sword and Fairy. Of course, they were still amazed while doing the introduction, thinking, damn, how come there are really such creatures in the world? Unbelievable! Sala exclaimed. Mr. Fang patted his forehead and said earnestly, I think you guys are unbelievable too. How come we are unbelievable? Elder Sewell glared at Mr. Fang. You are slighting us elves. We are all doing good with ourselves. How can you say that we're unbelievable? Is there any place in the world that doesn't have elves? While they were arguing, some assassins came into the shop. Why are you all standing here? Ms. Alina, quickly come and look. Sala beckoned at her excitedly, the demon clan does exist in the world. Soon, a big group of people surrounded the deer in the new shop, they kept staring at it and forgot about getting online. While Zhang Xiaoyu and the deer went over to make instant noodles, the elves and orcs followed them and watched. Can your Princess Xiaoyu turn into a tapir? I already told you that I'm not in the same clan as Mengli. Aren't you all demons? When Zhang Xiaoyu and the deer finished their instant noodles and began drinking milk tea, the elves and orcs were still staring at them. Do you think the deer was transformed from a druid? Druids don't have the spell to change into a deer. Elder Sewell said. Then, we can't change into deer and play with it then. Oh. Elf girl Sala finally found a new topic. Have you watched the trailer for The Avengers? The pop-up on QQ. Do you want to watch it together with us when it's released? Rowling, another female elf of the Snow Pigeon team, said, that evil god is so scary. I'll freak out if I watch it by myself. This must be a terrifying movie. Sala agreed. The trailer said that we can watch the movie tomorrow, right? Sala said warmly, watch it with us, and you won't be frightened. Zhang Xiaoyu was still studying this group of elves and orcs, trying to see if the orcs had just put on headgears that looked like dog heads and if the elves had glued those pointy ears to their heads. She snapped back after watching them for a while. The shop owner has a tour bus, should we watch it together tomorrow? Sitting on the couch beside her, the big white deer was slurping down instant noodles. Chapter 710 A Group Tour to the Lake. Finally, the elves said, do you want to group with us and play World of Warcraft? Are you in the Alliance or the Horde? Are you a part of the Horde? A few orcs joined in the conversation eagerly. We have the fiercest orc warriors. Roar! We have Horde characters. After all, many demons were playing as races such as the Tauren and Trolls on the side of the Horde, thinking that these characters had more demon-like features. Therefore, Zhang Xiaoyu had also set up a Horde account. Lately, she was still playing as a night elf on her small account. It was because she had chosen Tauren as her main account. If she played as a member of the undead race, it would be a little bit better. In the system version, if the players had natural good looks, they only needed to make minor adjustments and look as if they had Queen Sylvanas skin. Therefore, the elves didn't feel uncomfortable choosing the undead race. However, the Taurens looked a bit too coarse. You are Horde players. The elves playing as members of the Alliance with Elder Sewell looked disappointed. We have both. We have both. Zhang Xiaoyu said, some of my friends chose the Alliance, so we created characters on both sides. Can we do that? We can play together then. Obviously, many of the new players didn't know about alt accounts. Have you been to the beautiful and tranquil Lakeshire? Obviously, the elves were fans of natural scenery and preferred viewing beautiful environment to doing instances and leveling up. You must visit the Night Elves' Ashen Vale. The view is breathtaking, especially in the evening when the moonlight shines on the clear river. Yes. There are also trees that can move freely on their own, another elf introduced, some of them can even talk. Ugh! Zhang Xiaoyu asked in surprise, don't you have such ancient trees in your own clan? We're not night elves, You aren't? Of course not. Look at our skin. It's not as dark as that of the night elves. Okay. The group chatted animatedly and introduced themselves. When they got online, a large group of people stood behind Xiaoyu and Little Bell. The players who came late, such as Daikas and other high-level mages of the Royal Magic Union, were puzzled when they entered the shop. "Why are you guys all standing here?" Then, a scream came, "Oh! How come there is a deer here playing games?" Then the elves, orcs, and assassins enjoyed their astonishment and told them that the deer came from the demon clan of the East Continent. "I feel like I'm dreaming, yet. I always thought that this race was imaginary." Even dwarves kept glancing this way while they played games. They had never seen people from the demon clan before. "Sir, why don't you take Xiaoyu and Little Bell for a tour in the city?" "Right. I think you can take them to see the Red Lake and the maple forest by the lake. It's autumn, the most beautiful time to see these places. You can also stand on the top of Kanglan Castle and see the whole Kanglan city in one glance." Elf girl Sala and the knights tossed out suggestions eagerly. "Yay! Boss," Zhang Xiaoyu was a bit shy at their enthusiasm. "They are so passionate, boss. Can we go out and have fun?" Obviously, Zhang Xiaoyu was more reserved here than back in her home where she was reckless. This, Mr. Fang was still considering the proposal. "Let's hit the road. I'm sure the shop owner will agree, right? Sir, will you come with us? Today, we can take a boat and row to the central island in the lake." Before Mr. Fang could tell Zhang Xiaoyu if they were going on or, he was dragged out of the shop by others. "Little Xiner. You guys keep an eye on the shop for me, and I'll be back later. Anyone else wants to come with us?" Me. Hearing this invitation, the big group of orcs and assassins who were watching them all eagerly came out. Almost 100 people gathered on the street in front of the shop. The passers-by who didn't know their tour plan thought that they were doing window shopping together. "My goodness, what's happening? Look at the deer in the front. The deer seems to be talking. Are my eyes playing tricks on me?" The residents of Kanglan City all froze at this scene. It was incredible. "What's happening up there? Why are you following them? There's a talking deer up front." Really? It seemed to come out from the Origins Internet Club. There are many orcs and many elves. That one looks like Grand Mage Adolf. How come he's here too? How come I feel like I saw that Grand Mage Merlin?" A figure dressed in a mage's robe immediately went deeper in the crowd. "How come I feel like I have been discovered?" "Sir, we heard that you're taking Xiaoyu and Little Bell for an outing." In the group chat in QQ, Su Tianji in Zhuhua City, Ning Bai in Half City, and Zhongwu and Gu Tingyun in Yuanyang City all emerged with questions. "Why don't you put it on the live stream?" Tang Yu said, "Sir, you can't enjoy the sight of elves every day by yourself. Put them on the live stream so that we can see them too. We've never seen elves before." Yu Bai added, I agree. Group picture of Xiaoyu and some elves. "Look, even Xiaoyu sent us pictures." Okay. I'll live stream after I ask for their permission." Mr. Fang felt harassed that he had to live stream while he went for an outing. Snap! In the shops, the big screens in the lounge areas suddenly lit up. The shop owner is live streaming again. I wonder what we'll watch this time. Soon, large groups of audience gathered before the screens. Yu Bai, Tang Yu, other disciples of Heavenly Academy, Fairy Qingyun who was wearing a big pair of sunglasses, and even the janitors all sat down on the couches. On the screens, elf girl Sala and other elves of the Snow Pigeon team stood in one row. "Sir, they can see us now. Greetings to people in the other shops." "Hello." The elves waved. Behind them, some orcs poked out their animal heads. "What are these? Does World of Warcraft have orcs like these? Are they new races? They are not night elves." A new elf race appeared. "Look! Xiaoyu is with them. They are at the new shop." I see real elves. Look! A dog-headed man is catching fish in the lake. Su Tianji exclaimed. When others looked over, the dog-headed man was swimming back to the bank with 2 fish dangling from his mouth. Today, I'll treat you the roasted fish of orcs. He was very hospitable. Exclamations erupted among the audiences in the shops. It was about 6 o'clock in the evening. Under the fiery evening clouds in the late autumn sky, maple leaves flew down on the banks of the lake. While the orcs roasted fish on the bank, some knights were rowing a boat toward the center of the lake. Yo ha 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 ha! It's so fun! The big white deer stood on the bow and spread its front hooves to enjoy the warm breeze on the lake. Then, its 2 hooves slipped. Why! Splash! The big white deer fell into the lake. Ugh! Everyone in the area froze. Ahia! Help the deer! Help me! When they returned to the shop, it was very late. Mercenaries such as Big Sword Crete were enjoying the attention from the city's aristocrats and the civilians. Crete? Can you tell us where the talking deer came from? Crete? How come there were so many elves a moment ago? I heard some servants talking about something named the Avengers in a battle against an evil god. My goodness! Are they gathering together to deal with an evil god? Some noble ladies who liked reading fantasy novels about knights sent servants to ask about the movie. Obviously, the outing of the large group of elves and orcs with the talking big white deer caused a great disturbance in the whole city. In this empire, people could also do other stuff besides learning combat techniques or practicing magic spells. The members with moderate talents in the big families would be sent to learn how to manage the family business. These types of fantasy stories circulating in the Nora continent were quite popular among aristocrats, including the noble ladies who were just mentioned. Of course, the people who were most eager about it were the peace-loving elves. Oh right! Can you tell us about, the Avengers that you were talking about? The orcs asked while they walked back to their inn. That's a trailer of a new movie in the shop, the elves happily introduced the orcs to the movie. It's a story about an extremely horrifying evil god trying to rule humans. On the other side, Mr. Adolf, do you think that there's really an evil god who is trying to rule the humans in the Avengers? Dwarf Elder Sock asked while they walked to a street in the distance. I heard from the elves who have watched the trailer that the evil god is extremely scary. I think that the elves would never lie. Adolf said gravely. Oh. Then, it will be a horror movie, the dwarf elder sighed. It's said that people can feel the great power of that evil god by watching the trailer, and it's a level of power that we can never withstand. Bam! 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 It was midnight, and Elder Sewell was still awake when she heard someone knocking on her door. Elder, are you asleep? Outside the door, elf girl Sala asked in a low voice, may I enter? Come in. A small head poked in. Elder. I can't sleep. Do you think there is really such an evil god, that would turn us to ashes with one wave of his hand? After all, in the legends, such existences were all powerful and capable of many great deeds. The morning of the next day today was the day that the Avengers would be released. Shakily, the elves, dwarves, and orcs sat before their computers with curiosity for the unknown. Are we really going to watch this extremely scary horror movie? An orc asked with a shiver. We orcs are the bravest beings, another orc said shakily. If the elves dare to watch it, why can't we? I heard that the cute little white deer of the demon clan is also brave enough to watch it, another orc said loudly. We brave orcs surely, are not frightened. They all activated the movie and began to watch The Avengers, which seemed to be a super horror movie. After hearing the exaggerated descriptions from the elves, they had to encourage themselves for the movie. Meanwhile, others such as Dwarf Elder Sock and Elf Elder Sewell had also begun watching the movie. In fact, many elves even boarded Mr. Fang's tour bus. So many people, we should be fine, right? Some elves were still uneasy. We elves are the bravest beings and are not afraid of this evil god. Ha! Yay! Sala and other elf girls dashed onto Mr. Fang's tour bus with battle shouts as if they were trying to say, "We elves are fearless." Some customers from the old shops were also on Mr. Fang's tour bus, including Su Tianji, members of the Heaven-defying online games guild, and students of Heavenly Academy. Although they had seen these elves and orcs yesterday, they still stared at the latter in amazement. Seeing the elves who had pointy ears and orcs who had lion heads or tiger heads, demonic woman Ning Bai suddenly felt like she looked quite normal compared with these people. Soon, the movie began. The Tesseract has awakened. Before the viewers was a mass of icy blue flames wrapped by a square crystal cube. Even though they were looking at it from the side, the viewers vaguely felt the deep and horrifying energy inside it. The gloomy and evil voice slowly sounded from the darkness, "A human world. They would wield its power, but our ally knows its workings as they never will. He is ready to lead. And our force, our Chitori, will follow." In the gloomy dark space, countless weirdly dressed gloomy monster soldiers put on their armor while the deep voice continued, "The world will be his. The universe yours. And the humans, what can they do but burn? Yay!" The elves let out a series of screams. Are they all evil gods? There are more than one. According to legends that were passed down from ancient times, they could do nothing but wait for their death if such an evil god decided to attack them. The humans here are not powerful at all. Sala said, "Look at their commander. He doesn't even have the presence of a level 1 warrior. He's just an ordinary person. They are finished. This will be a horrifying catastrophe of the biggest scale." "Do you think the humans on this earth will be wiped out?" one elf asked. It was scary even just thinking about it. The system version of the movie didn't only make viewers feel like they were in the world. Furthermore, the great power of the characters would be showcased in many ways, including the godlike presences, glances, and the horrifyingly huge force which could destroy all viewers with only a tiny part of it. Apart from all these, the most horrifying was the ability of easily controlling people's minds at will. Just imagine how horrifying it would be if your body and mind no longer belong to you. Woo! I don't want to watch it, Rowling, the elf girl standing beside Sala, almost wept. The other elves were not faring any better. Their screams resonated in the tour group, and some elf girls even huddled together. The young men and women sitting around her were obviously also high-ranked. This was their first visit here. Yesterday, they heard everyone talking about the movie. Today, driven by curiosity, they each bought a membership and activated the Avengers. Now, they were watching Loki make his appearance. Ah! They instantly shrieked. They were so frightened by the scene that they almost wet their pants. Different from the players in the old shops, the newbies who had never watched such movies before almost went crazy. Just imagine the scenario in which a mortal stood before a real evil god who could frighten them with a tiny bit of his presence. The system had perfected each detail in the movie. According to the legends in this world, the gods were so scary that they could turn humans into ashes with a wave of their hands. This evil god. Ah! Ah! The talentless aristocrats who knew nothing but watching knights screamed as soon as they saw this evil god. Even some orcs swallowed their saliva with difficulty. The plot of the Avengers was quite simple. After the evil god Loki took the Tesseract with force, the S.H.I.E.L.D. organization planned to gather the superheroes to handle this mess. Although it was simple, this plot made the story easy to understand for the new customers who had never watched such movies before. Soon, the heroes made their appearances. "This woman looks like an ordinary person," the audience watched and commented on Black Widow. "But she's pretty," one orc with a lion head commented. "But what is the use of beauty when fighting against an evil god?" Then, they saw the second superhero. "This guy is also an ordinary person," the audience scrutinized the Hulk, who was in his human form. "How come I don't sense any special abilities from them? He is even afraid of an handgun." Sala, who had watched Resident Evil, felt like she was going to die. This is the least powerful weapon. This Iron Man looks to be an ordinary person too. Naively, the elves looked at Iron Man, who was in a strange armor suit. Ugh! His feet are spitting fire. The elves, orcs, and aristocrats watched in puzzlement as Iron Man shot into the sky above an extremely prosperous city like a shooting star. Under the nightly sky, the neon lights in the city flashed like starry lights, which were dizzying for the audience who were not familiar with this style of tall buildings. The night view of this city is breathtaking. Despite their fear for the evil god, the elves, fans of natural beauty, still enjoyed the night view. Then, they saw Captain America. This Captain America doesn't look powerful either, one orc commented with a muffled voice. Can these humans defeat this evil god in a battle? Then, the viewers turned back to watching the evil god as he teleported and used all kinds of destructive spells that had been upgraded to a godly level by the system. They were impressed by his calm and unique air as if he had everything under control. A set of weirdly shaped armor appeared on Loki's body, and he stepped out with casual steps as if he was walking in a park, but the people around him were so frightened that they scrambled to flee. Obviously, in the system version of the movie, the audience could better sense the horrifying godly pressure. Without a fuss, all humans before him kneeled while shaking. They submitted to the terrifying power of this evil god. All viewers could feel this horrifying pressure. Can humans really battle with such an existence? Has this evil god recovered his godly power? I feel like he's getting stronger, is not this simpler? The audience in the news shop stood in the crowd as they watched Loki make his proud speech. Is this not your natural state? It's the unspoken truth of humanity, that you crave subjugation. In the end, you'll always kneel. Finally, an old man stood up shakily and said, "Not to men like you." Loki sneered. "Look to your elder, people." The scepter in Loki's hand condensed a destructive pale blue light. Let him be an example. Then, the destructive light shot out like a bright blue beam of death. Ahya! He'll die. He is going to die. The less brave elves and humans covered their heads with their arms when seeing this scary evil god. Boom! Ugh! A timid elf removed her fingers from her eyes and saw the blue light being bounced back. Loki dropped to the ground and was silent for a long while. Captain America stood before the old man with a small round shield in his hand. Then, a rocket-like light beam flew down from the sky. Two blinding light beams with great energy from the nuclear reactor shot from the center of two hands. Make your move. When the horrifying evil god tried to move again, Iron Man stood before him. Yet? What's happening? Isn't he an evil god? The audience who had been frozen in fear looked baffled. How come this plot feels fishy? This Captain America doesn't look powerful, but what's the trick with his shield? That Iron Man looks no different from an ordinary soldier apart from his metal armor. But, what were the light beams that instantly knocked down the evil god? I don't like it. In the movie, Captain America opened his mouth and spoke. What? Rock of Ages giving up so easily? Is this a scheme? Hearing their conversation, the audience became uneasy again. I also feel like, things can't be this simple. They had seen the calmness of Loki, as if he had everything under control even though he was captured by these humans. It seemed like everything was going as he had planned, and humans didn't have any power to resist the slow corrosion. This feeling even suffocated the orcs and dwarves, let alone the elves. This evil god must have given himself up on purpose, right? Elder Sewell stared at the scene before her and commented. This evil god is so cunning. I feel like he's brewing some horrifying scheme. The specially made glass around the cell couldn't be broken by any ordinary person, not even Loki, who had obviously lost his strength again. However, everyone saw that Loki's power went beyond his physical strength. Like a born demon, his words could always lure and bewitch people. Even without using any force, he seemed to be able to lure anyone who had contact with him to work for him. For example, he was now luring Black Widow to step into his trap with words. At this moment, everyone in Mr. Fang's tour group was watching the scene. Is this love? In the cell, Loki's voice full of sins and degeneration sounded, luring Black Widow to open her heart and tell him her past. Oh, this horrifying evil god has control over someone important to her, so despicable. Watching this scene, the elves felt even more frightened. Pathetic, you serve liars and killers, do you think you can wipe out all your sins? The evil god's voice grew even more vicious, I won't touch Barton. Not until I make him kill you. Slowly. Intimately. In every way he knows you fear. And when he'll wake just long enough to see his good work, and when he screams, I'll split his skull. The words turned the atmosphere more and more suffocating. It's finished, I feel like this woman is going to break. At this moment, the pretty woman dressed in black body-fitting clothes said, thank you for your cooperation. I know your plan now. Loki, who was in the cell, was at a loss for words. Ugh! What's happening? Of course, this small incident didn't affect the main course. Oh! Look at this evil god, how come he still looks so confident? Dwarf Elder Sock exclaimed. My goodness, he got out. He actually got out. What do I see? He activated the horrifying tesseract. Will the world come to its end? The pale blue light beam shot into the sky and opened a huge portal in space. From being captured to escaping to activating the tesseract, this evil god seemed to have everything in his control. Countless spaceships from the alien dimension flew out of the pitch-black space, shooting out destructive light beams and turning everything that they touched into ashes. Instantly, the buildings in the city were turned into shambles. This evil god is so calm, will the humans in this world be destroyed? The horrifyingly huge metal beasts also crawled out from the wormhole in space. A wiggle of their giant, mountain-like bodies could knock down all the high buildings around them. He's chasing after Black Widow. My goodness! At this moment, Hawkeye Barton, another superhero, shot an arrow at Loki. It was dead-on accurate. Loki couldn't dodge it. However, in the next moment, the powerful evil god caught the arrow in his hand. He looked down overbearingly with a smile of great self-confidence. Oh! I think this evil god is indeed powerful, Elder Sewell said in shock. Boom! The head of the arrow exploded, sending Loki flying. He was dazed by the explosion. It was absolutely silent. After a while, ha 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 ha! Wild laughter filled the whole internet cafe while a few orcs dropped to the ground with merriment. Enough! After breaking through the window and falling into a tall building, Loki looked at the Hulk who had chased him into the building, and this evil god now had a distorted expression. Enough! All of you are beneath me. I am a god, you dull creatures, and I will not be bullied. Is the evil god going to use his true power now? Some noble ladies exclaimed. After all, in the stories of knights, the evil antagonists would always show their hidden cards after a temporary defeat. Then, they saw the green giant with unthinkable strength grabbing onto Loki's legs. Then, he smashed Loki against the floor repeatedly like a bat. Boom! 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 Crack! 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 He glanced at Loki, saw that the latter was still alive, and swung again. Loki slowly snapped back. He lay on the floor in a daze. All of the audience were at a loss for words. After a long while, they finally understood what happened and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, the orcs slammed their fists on the floor. Ha 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 ha, ah ha ha ha, oink. Elder Sewell suddenly covered her mouth. People seemed to hear a snorting sound from a pig. Everyone looked over. Not me. Not me. Elder Sewell's pretty face darkened. I didn't laugh. Ha ha ha. We thought we'd watch a super horrifying evil god and were prepared to be terrified. But you forced us to end up laughing like pigs. Are you sure you're not kidding me? Ah! Mr. Fang looked at the elves in confusion. I'm showing you a comedy. Seeing you work hard playing games every day, I decided to give you some entertainment and relaxation. Isn't it great? Ha! The elves and orcs all froze. We thought we were watching a horror movie. You ruined our view of this world. Elf girl Sala felt like her belly hurt since she laughed so much, and she rushed over and swung her little fists at Mr. Fang. How can we look at evil gods with proper fear after watching this? At this moment, the real battle had just begun. As mentioned before, Loki opened a spatial portal with the Tesseract. On the other side of the portal was an extremely huge spaceship floating in the endless space full of radiant stars, and the ship hovered in the space above Earth like a giant shadow. They passed through the portal that was opened by the Tesseract, which was taken by Loki, and they rushed into the sky above Earth continuously. With nimble bodies like fish, their spaceships looked like huge deep ocean whales that could soar in the sky. Each of these spaceships was as big as an aircraft carrier. The most terrifying thing was that these alien spaceships equipped with alien technologies were no longer ordinary spaceships in humans' imaginations. The fins of the spaceships cut open skyscrapers as if they were sharp knives cutting through tofu, and their huge tails knocked down countless buildings like dominoes. These weird spaceships looked like machines and life forms at the same time, and they turned the city into shambles like spatial giant beasts that were soaring in the sky. Sitting in small flying boats like compact groups of locusts, their soldiers butchered every living being that they saw with destructive laser beams like raindrops in a storm. The 6 superheroes stood below the portal. Obviously, this movie didn't follow the traditional way of expressing the storyline by putting the heroes at a disadvantage at the beginning. Instead, the movie showed the heroes' great powers in a humorous way. At this moment, the audience was amazed by the humans on this earth subconsciously. How come the humans on this earth are so powerful? Dwarf Elder Sock asked loudly. There are several of them. They were amazed by the unthinkable power that Iron Man obtained from the reactor on his chest, or Hulk's pure and horrifying physical strength that was greater than a god's. They had thought that Thor, who was a god, should be the main force of the alliance, but now they found that each of the heroes was a main force. At this moment, the audience saw the heroes gathering again to deal with the present crisis together. Even the customers in the new shop in Kanglan City were thrilled by the movie. Meanwhile, they began to get extremely curious about the past and backgrounds of these heroes, wondering what had made them so powerful. At this moment, their fear for the evil god had vanished, and in its place was a combination of fear and curiosity that the modern people felt while they watched horror movies. Call it, Cap. In the spatial void behind the portal, the mothership that was many times larger than these spaceships stood in the deep darkness, sending more and more spaceships to Earth. All right, listen up. Until we can close that portal up there, we're going to use containment. Baton, I want you on that roof, eye on everything. Call out patterns and strays. Stark, you got the perimeter. Anything gets more than 3 blocks out, you turn it back or you turn it to ash. After these orders were issued, it was Thor's turn. You got to try and bottleneck that portal. Slow them down. As the climax of the movie came, the audience in the other world were enthralled. Hulk. With a deafening, furious roar, Hulk's huge body shattered the ground like a huge cannonball. Then, he instantly grabbed the soldiers from one flying ship on the sky. The powerful light beams that these flying ships sent out couldn't even penetrate the green giant's skin. It seemed like nothing could block his huge force. Everything including metal, rocks, and the spaceships carrying the Chitauri army was shattered by his huge iron fists. Thunderous clouds surged in the sky while many thunderbolts formed a huge destructive net. Many thunderbolts that were as thick as buckets struck on the portal viciously under the control of Thor's hammer, exploding the huge spaceships that were just passing the portal in the blink of an eye. They turned into waves of fire clouds while many debris of the spaceship fell from the sky like shooting stars. The thunderous lights and flames in the sky looked like many radiant fireworks. On the other side, Hawkeye Barton shot out arrows, exploding the spaceships in the sky and turning them into fireballs. The blazing flames and lights shot across the city, making explosive and artistic destruction everywhere. This was absolutely a great visual feast for the eyes to enjoy. Wow! The elves, dwarves, and knights found that they were completely enthralled by scenes of the war. Oh! Oh! Holding a big bag of potato chips that she had bought in Xon, Zhang Xiaoyu stuffed a big handful of potato chips into her mouth while she enjoyed the Avengers. Obviously, as a player from one of the old shops, she was calmer than the others but was still fascinated by this novel and humorous movie. To her surprise, another hand reached into the bag and grabbed a handful of potato chips. Xiaoyu, this original flavor isn't so good. Why didn't you buy the cucumber flavor? Mr. Fang said while crunching on the potato chips. You are saying that it doesn't taste good after you finished eating. Zhang Xiaoyu was mad. You eat my potato chips every day. At this moment, the war came to the end. Although many Chitauri troops that had entered Earth through the portal had been destroyed, the mothership in the void was still sending more spaceships down as if there was an endless supply. Like black clouds, more and more spaceships surrounded the Hulk and poured light beams onto him. Even the energy from the reactor couldn't last for long in such a big-scaled war. Tony Stark, Iron Man, found that his energy was low after destroying several Chitauri army's spaceships that looked like huge beasts. At this moment, the military activated the most horrifying weapon. A white missile flew toward the city with a long tail of exhaust flames like a rocket. It was a nightmare for both the humans and their enemies. Produced by the technology much more advanced than that in the world where Fang Qi had lived before he traveled through space and time, this nuclear missile had much greater power. Everyone, both the humans and their enemies, would be destroyed. Seeing Iron Man getting close to the missile on his own and pushing it to change the trajectory before propelling it to the other side of the portal, the audience seemed to begin to understand what the word hero meant. Perhaps it was a one-way trip, which was a price that an ordinary person couldn't pay. From humor to passion and then to heroism. Yes, this was a simple story about heroes. Perhaps it was only a very simple movie about superheroes, but its simplicity had many benefits. At least everyone understood its humor. And while they laughed, they also understood the message the movie tried to convey. On the other side of the portal, the nuclear fusion turned the whole mothership into an ocean of fire, annihilating it in the void. Yay! This Iron Man isn't dead yet. The elves were pleasantly surprised while they watched the last scene of the movie. I feel like the part when he caught the arrow is the most interesting. A dog-headed man joined them too. I wonder if there are more movies of this style, some new customers asked while sitting down beside them. Sir. The elves looked at Mr. Fang expectantly. Probably not recently, Mr. Fang said, we'll soon have a new game, but not movies. A game? What new game? Even the assassins who were playing World of Warcraft in a zone quite far away walked over upon hearing this news. Having spent only 2 hours on the movie, the players still had lots of time left today. While the elves talked about the movie with Zhang Xiaoyu and Little Bell in excitement, others entered the game and began today's exploration. By now, most of the players had reached levels over 50 in World of Warcraft. Right now, the max level in World of Warcraft was level 60. After reaching the highest level, the players could choose to play different styles, including casual, PvE, or PvP. During leisure time, the players could go to the battlegrounds and improve their combat techniques, or they could try blacksmithing, enchanting, gathering, or even touring the world. On the windowsills at the northeast corner of the shop, there were several pots of blue gladiolus orchids, the special plants that could only be found in the Morning Light Empire. The dwarves and mages were sitting at computers near the flowers. A box of spicy sticks sat on Mage Adolph's computer desk, and he had eaten more than half of the box while watching the movie. Without thinking, he stuffed one into his mouth. Elder Sock, come and take a look at this blueprint. Can you create it? Adolf asked with a scroll of recipes in his hand. Some of us mages formed a group and looted this while you watched the movie. For Dwarf Elder Sock, even though the artifact-making techniques in the Legend of Sword and Fairy 4 were inspiring, blacksmithing and alchemy were still his specialties. In World of Warcraft, there were equipment that brought some classes great glories for one generation, and such god-tier equipment could be obtained through blacksmithing. For example, the recipe for destiny that he was holding. As everyone knew, reaching the max level was only the beginning in World of Warcraft. Two max-level players would have a great difference in strength if one of them was well-equipped and the other was poorly equipped. As told by its name, Destiny had tremendous power in the blade, and the player with this weapon would feel as if they could control their destiny. It was the first of the 7 weapons in World of Warcraft that had legendary backgrounds. Elder Sock instantly widened his eyes. My goodness! What's this? While exclamations sounded, many people nearby also looked over and intensely stared at the purple epic two-handed longsword that could be made by blacksmiths. Elder Kin, you make this sword? Dwarf warrior Raph stuck out his hairy head and stared at the screen with envy in his eyes. Be patient. I'm doing the quest for the master blacksmith. Elder Sock looked smug. While he was chatting, he put down his virtual reality headset with his mouse cursor hovering on the recipe that he had traded from Adolf. I'm doing the quest named The Art of the Imbue. I don't think anyone in World of Warcraft is faster than me. No, Dwarf Raph said, I meant, with this detailed blueprint, can you make it in your blacksmith workshop? He meant the workshop in the real world. This, Dwarf Elder Sock thought for a moment and said, I'm afraid that I can't do it until I've mastered all the blacksmith skills in this game. In other words, it's entirely possible. The art of the imbue, as was indicated by the name, was to inject magic energy into items. As a result, the equipment created in World of Warcraft had many powerful magic attributes. On the other side, Grand Mage Adolf was studying enchanting and alchemy with many other mages. Hiss! Look at this healing potion, it can heal wounds in a flash, Adolf said. Dikas, I think we must study its creation process. Different from Diablo, one could find incomplete production methods of things in World of Warcraft due to the existence of professions. In a corner close to the entrance of the shop, the Golden Griffin Knights obviously didn't spend much time on discussion after watching the Avengers. Hey! After chatting with the elves for a while, Helen turned to look at Commander Elvin's screen and found that he had gone to the Eastern Plague Lands. Commander, what are you doing here? Some knights came over and watched him play. Yesterday, in the west of the Eastern Plague Lands, I met an old knight who had been exiled for treason because he had saved an orc, Commander Elvin said. My guts told me that there are some secret stories in this place. I plan to do this quest, and it will give me lots of experience points. On his screen was an old paladin named Ford Ring. In the lounge area, the elves were still talking about the Avengers that they had just finished watching. They were sitting on the couches in the lounge area in a circle. Elder Sewell was enjoying a mug of cappuccino casually. Sitting across from her were a group of orcs who were talking animatedly. Ding dong! Zhang Xiaoyu's communication jade made a sound, and she took it out and chatted on it cheerfully. You guys all have this thing. You can use QQ on this thing as well. This communication jade is an updated version after we studied the cell phones shown in the shop's games. Zhang Xiaoyu glanced at the elves. Don't you have this? I remember there are cell phones in the new game and the movie Resident Evil, aren't they virtual objects? Elder Sewell said curiously. But you can open and study them. Ah! We can open and study them. Elder Sewell looked astonished. Then, the Avengers, everyone looked over in astonishment. Didn't you know that? Zhang Xiaoyu looked at her in surprise. We can do it in all the games and movies. Yay! We always thought they are fake. Obviously, the elves and mages had always thought that they could only practice combat techniques in the games. Elder Little Sala glanced at Elder Sewell beside her and asked, "Didn't you say that you will apply for a teleportation array? Was the application approved?" "Oh." Elder Sewell patted her forehead. "Did you forget it?" Elf girl Sala stared at her in suspicion. "How is that possible?" Elder Sewell rolled her eyes at Sala and said, "Little girl, don't doubt your elder. Do you think I'm a forgetful person?" Elder Sewell said with great dignity, "It's not a small issue to build a teleportation array connecting the elf clan with another nation. I need to demonstrate many benefits that we can obtain here to the Elder Council. I've only collected a small part of the evidence, it's not enough yet. Then, we must play some more games to get enough evidence." Sala asked cheerfully. What are you talking about?" Elder Sewell's pretty face reddened, and then she said solemnly, "I've sent a message to the Elder Council, telling them that the Elf Guard team that came out with me this time would obtain a huge leap in strength when we return. We're here to do hard cultivation. We've been working so hard raiding instances and got such a fright from the so-called evil god. Yes. We're here for hard cultivation. This girl is getting so unruly that she dares to tease me, an elder." Then, Elder Sewell said with a serious expression, "Cultivate hard. Do you understand? You guys will protect Silver Moon Forest in the future." "Okay. Got it. That is better." Satisfied, Elder Sewell turned to look at Mr. Fang and said, "Sir, didn't you say that there would be a new mystical realm? How about it? Do you have a trailer?" "Sir, which workshop made it?" In their minds, the East Continent had many workshops which had made most of the games long ago, and that was why this shop could release new games faster and more frequently than the Dulin Workshop and Lava Workshop. Of course, it must be noted that Mr. Fang's shop was popular only in this area and not as well known as the big workshops in other nations. After all, in the Royal Magic Union of the Morning Light Empire outside Kanglan City, how come I always hear people sing high praise of the Blizzard Workshop? A mage dressed in a black mage's robe complained, "They keep saying that Blizzard is the best in the world. Everything originates from Blizzard. Seriously. They brag about it every day. I was a bit curious about this Blizzard Workshop." A blonde mage said while shaking his head, "But I'm now tired of hearing their bragging. A bunch of morons. Is Blizzard their daddy or something?" "Hey! Who are you talking about? Who else?" The mages led by Daikas are the most enthusiastic supporters. They even claimed that it is the most realistic and vastest mystical realm. This was pretty much the current situation. However, the new game clearly wasn't a product of Blizzard. "It's Ubisoft this time," Mr. Fang said. "Ubisoft?" Assassin Alina had just walked into the shop. Hearing the word Ubisoft, she strode over immediately. What was Ubisoft? It was their faith. "Is it a sequel to Assassin's Creed?" she asked excitedly. "It's not a game in the Assassin series." Mr. Fang shook his head and said, "Today, the trailer was released. You can watch it in the Super Theater. Then, when will the game be released?" While looking for a seat, Elf Girl Sala asked casually. While his face twitched, Mr. Fang glanced at the task on the system interface and said, "It's not decided yet. Is my mind very weak? Why do I need to do special training?" Mr. Fang looked disdainful. The system replied, "If the host thinks he has a tough mind, why not begin the training immediately?" "No." Mr. Fang's face stiffed. To calm down his nerves, Mr. Fang went and made himself a bowl of instant noodles. So, the release date was still undecided. Yay! Xiaoyu, you guys are early. Seeing Xiaoyu and Little Bell were already online, the elves immediately sat down in the seats near to them. Morning! Zhang Xiaoyu exited from the virtual reality mode and waved at the elves. "Xiaoyu, do you want to eat some spicy sticks?" Sala took out a box of spicy sticks with a smile. "I bought a big box today." "I do. As a foodie, Xiaoyu's eyes lit up at the mentioning of spicy sticks. Then, you must say Sister Sala is the best. I like Sister Sala the most. Well, Zhang Xiaoyu blushed. Standing behind them with a bowl of instant noodles in his hands, Mr. Fang felt awkward, feeling like Xiaoyu would be easily lured away by a spicy stick. Expressionlessly, Mr. Fang interrupted, with a bowl of instant noodles in his hands, you can open Super Theater, it is the most eye-catching one on the top. Oh! Sir! Are you sure that Ubisoft didn't release a new game of Assassin's Creed? Alina obviously was still thinking about Assassin's Creed, and she asked while opening Super Theater. Outlast. Alina froze. What game is this? Sala asked curiously while she gazed at the screen. It's a survival game, Mr. Fang explained, you can see it from the name. It's about escaping from a dangerous place. Mr. Fang's explanation was not even better than no explanation. Isn't it simple? Alina looked confident. After all, she had escaped from the minions of the Judgment Godly Palace and the places full of traps many times even before she played Assassin's Creed. I'm good at this. But, it looks so gloomy. Little Belle only took one look of the trailer and immediately exited from virtual reality mode, covering its eyes with its hooves. On the screen was a desolate sand-covered road leading to a nightmarish castle-like building. As the camera entered the interior of the building, they saw dirty bloodstains in the gloomy ward-like rooms. The whole space felt suffocating and heavy. In the darkness, creepy figures would flash past occasionally. In some places, it was pitch black, and the players could only see things with the night vision function of the camera. Through the night vision of the camera, the world on the screen looked grey, which added more gloominess to the place. It's fine, Sala said, don't be fooled by the trailer. We were frightened by the evil god, but what happened? Humph. Sala said calmly, I think this must be a hilarious game. Although he couldn't talk about his assassinations of the high-level officials of the Judgment Godly Palace, this man could reveal some of his survival skills. I always took shelter in the filthy places since I was sure that those lofty people wouldn't even expect me to hide in those places in their dreams. Hey! Beside him, another assassin reached over and covered his mouth. Ha ha ha. Anyway, we excel in this area. Harrison laughed heartily. After the reputation of assassins turned from that of a dirty job to a great profession, Harrison began to wonder about the imminent game named Outlast. Is it possible that these survival skills will also become great abilities? Alina rolled her eyes at Harry and then told the elves, don't listen to him. I'm way better in this than him. I'm the best expert in fleeing elegantly from the most dangerous places and angering your enemies during the process. Really? Many members of the Snow Pigeon team were intrigued. If they could do some homework and get prepared before the release of the game named Outlast, they might be able to progress quickly after they entered the game, right? For example, these people had been wondering why New Snow, the girl who usually teamed with them in the game, and the Tauren with the ID Young Master Song and his buddies were so sharp. Sala was envious of them whenever she watched them play, and she thought that it was necessary to get some training in these skills, so she could show off her own abilities when they began playing Outlast. Should we go outside of the city and have a special training for Outlast this evening after we finish with World of Warcraft? Sala suggested. No problem. Alina said excitedly, I will teach you the secret to hiding your presence and magic energy in the body. Me too. I want to learn it too. A big white deer lifted its front hooves and yelled. This deer's teammates always said that it was dumb when they played games together. If it could do some preparation and learn the advanced skill of hiding its presence and magic energy, it felt like it could lord over other players when it began playing Outlast. In a corner not far from them, some Golden Griffin Knights were standing behind their commander and watching him play. Isn't this man just an old farmer? Is he really one of the 5 paladins of the Knights of the Silver Hand? Helen exclaimed while she watched the old man's self-narration on the screen. During the First War in World of Warcraft, to fight the invading orcs and deal with the fact that warriors couldn't heal themselves in battles, Archbishop Alensis Fail decided to create a new class which combined the abilities of warriors and priests paladin. Together with his disciples, he established the Knights of the Silver Hand and entrusted it to one of his apprentices, Uther the Lightbringer. This order later became the famous Silver Hand. In other words, the Silver Hand was the first paladin order in the world. Naturally, the first 5 paladins at the beginning of the Silver Hand had special meaning for paladin players. Commander, you discovered such a great existence in the suburbs of the Eastern Plague Lands. One of the Golden Griffin Knights couldn't believe his eyes. Is it real? An insignificant and dejected farmer living reclusively in the Eastern Plague Lands. Commander, how did you find him? Helen gasped in a low voice as if she had discovered a new world. Subconsciously, she felt like the situation wasn't as simple as it looked. I got lost in the spider cave and then I came here after walking through the cave. Commander Elvin obviously was also puzzled. Let's see what else this paladin needs. Impatiently, they wanted to watch how this quest would continue. In fact, in the world where Fang Qi lived prior to his travel through space and time, players who hadn't played World of Warcraft would still know Tyrion Fordring if they had played a game named Hearthstone. Race does not dictate honor, human. Helen followed the route that Commander Elvin mentioned and found this paladin as well. While you remain on my farmstead, I ask that you remember and respect this credo. I have known orcs who have been as honorable as the most noble of knights and humans who have been as vile as the most ruthless of scourge. But I shall not bore you with tales of my youth. There is much work to be done if that is what you desire. Helen soon heard the instruction from this paladin. Obviously, this was a neutral quest that could be completed by both Alliance and Horde players. Of course, this man didn't trust the players at the beginning and didn't tell them some of the past events until these knights did some favors for this reclusive old man. The players got the remaining parts of the story from other people. Bit by bit, they finally put together the complete and special event in the past. I, Tyrion Fordring, was exiled for treason. This old man seemed to have returned to the past when he recalled the period where he was young and arrogant. Once, Fordring found a reclusive orc and fought him fiercely. Then, the ruins of a nearby tower collapsed, and Fordring, who had been engrossed in the battle, was caught off guard and buried in the debris. When Fordring woke up, he found himself lying in his own bed, and the captain of his guards told him that the rescue team found him unconscious on the back of his horse a few days ago. Fordring tried to recall what had happened and surprisingly realized that the person who had rescued him from the ruins must have been the orc. After he recovered, Fordring followed the clues in his memory and found the orc named Eitrig. The Alliance and Horde had always met each other with weapons, but at this moment, the two heroes appreciated each other and became friends. But soon, the Alliance found out the orc's whereabouts. When Fordring got the news, the orc had been brought to the city and was tortured inhumanely. Of course, Fordring couldn't stand back and watch, which was why he was sent to the court with the crime of treason. His wife and previous friends all tried to convince him to place all the blame on the orc. Of course, this quest included more than listening to this old man's memories. The quest's name was Of Love and Family. On one hand, Fordring did it to show respect to this orc with great virtues. On the other hand, he wanted to set an example as a father. He hoped that his 7-year-old son would learn from his noble virtues instead of despicable behaviors. Tyrion Fordring had only secretly returned to his hometown when his son, Talan, joined the Order of the Silver Hand. From the distance, he watched his son who had grown into a paladin. The fallen Prince Arthas betrayed the honor of paladins and disbanded the Order of the Silver Hand after killing Uther. From then on, the Silver Hand was divided into several factions, and the major ones were the Brotherhood of Light, Argent Dawn, and Scarlet Crusade. Tyrion Fordring's son, Talan Fordring, had also lost his faith. Disillusioned, he became a puppet of the Scarlet Crusade. The main character of the quest was a great paladin, but during the quest, the Golden Griffin Knights clearly sensed a father's deep concern and expectation for his son, which was common in any ordinary family. Talon Fordring was a High Lord of the Scarlet Crusade in Hearthglen. From this position by the river, one could see the only road coming out from the Hearthglen. Standing by the river, this old paladin looked at the road from the distance every day. At this moment, Commander Elvin and other knights of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion who were watching the scene from behind felt something wrenching their hearts. Senior Fordring begged the players to help him wake up the honor and memories buried deep inside his son. In quests of forgotten memories and of lost honor, the players must find a toy battle hammer and an old battle flag respectively for Fordring. Thinking that his father had died, Talon had buried the toy battle hammer together with his memories about his father. After the death of Uther, the leader of the Silver Hand, due to Arthas's betrayal, Talon thought that the Silver Hand had lost all its honor, which was why he joined the Scarlet Crusade. These two items signified his memories and honor. The last item was a painting of the happy Fordring family where Senior Fordring stood with his wife and son. For this painting, I must go to, Commander Elvin read the quest introduction. Stratholm, Commander Elvin froze. Commander, what's it? It was the next day when he came to this stage. Commander Elvin froze for a second and said, 15 people instance, still at rating stage, hey. I only got halfway through the storyline. Can't you let me finish the quest first? What happened after that? Did Senior Fordring save his son? Can't you let me get to the end of the story first? He almost passed out in a fury. Immediately, he sent a message to some old teammates such as the healer Dikas, are you going to raid today? No, he was feeling very frustrated. Sir. When will you release Outlast? In the early morning, some elves skipped their way to the counter. Sala felt like her survival skills had greatly improved after the training. This time, I can finally show off some fancy skills in the game. After all, she had learned lots of stuff this time. For example, she learned how to conceal her presence from someone stronger than her, how to suddenly attack when she was cornered by chasing enemies, and how to find an opportunity to grab some important figures as hostages. She even learned some scouting and searching methods. Feeling well prepared, she was impatient to try the game, Outlast. I hope you guys won't be startled by my amazing skills. Sala thought smugly. It's not released yet. What's the hurry? Mr. Fang rolled his eyes at her, having never seen anyone so eager to play Outlast. I'm still dreading the training. You must at least wait until I finish my special training. Why not? Sala was impatient with waiting. Tell me the exact date that you'll release it. I don't know. She felt like beating Mr. Fang. She was finally ready, but the shop owner just wouldn't release the game. I plan to live stream my plays. Then, I'll train for a few more days, Sala and her companions said huffily. Forget it. Alina said, should we go back and do some more practice? I just came up with an awesome idea. What idea? Sala asked curiously. The best survival skill is fighting back. Alina said excitedly, just think, since this game is produced by the Ubisoft Workshop, we can fight our way through it. Use Muzu. Killing all your enemies is the best way to survive. Alina seemed to be proud of her smart idea. We'll stun them by our fierce combat techniques. Good. Good. The elves almost jumped in joy when they heard this idea. How come you're so smart? Let's go. We'll practice for a few more days before we enter the game and use Muzu. These people were planning to shock everyone. Sounds great. Elf Rowling said cheerfully, let's go and practice. We'll enter the game together and put our fierce battles on live stream. The scene would be magnificent. Elf girls such as Sala and Rowling could think of nothing but fancy operations. At this moment, Mr. Fang heard his communication jade making a beep and saw a message from Su Tianji. Sir. Tianji sent the emoji of a husky's cute face. I watched the trailer of Outlast and found the monsters in it are not very powerful. Do we really need to flee from such monsters? I'm surprised that you thought of this. What do you mean by surprised that I thought of this? I'm very smart, okay? Mr. Fang said after taking a moment to organize his thoughts. Different from all the previous games, this game strips you of all methods of resistance, and the main character is an absolutely average person. Even the main characters in Resident Evil have physical conditions far superior than those of average people, so they are not truly average people. This is a game to cultivate players' minds and willpowers, strips of all methods of resistance. For some unknown reason, Su Tianji shivered. Some young people seemed to have gotten fatigued from frolicking and sat down on the benches on the square while laughing and chatting in joy. The 2 boys and 1 girl were 3 young people who regularly played games in Mr. Fang's shop. At this moment, these 3 looked toward the huge and clear visual projection on the square expectantly. What's today's projection about? I know. The blonde and young Ron said, of course, it is the Secrets of Mystical Realms, which is all the rage recently. Secrets of Mystical Realms was a professional and academic program which focused on the new emerging industry Cultivation Mystical Realms. The program Secrets of Mystical Realms usually showed the latest information about new mystical realms and talked about some new topics, which was why young people loved it so much. It seems like we're late. Ron said, has it been on for a while now? No, I think today's Secrets of Mystical Realms started earlier. Allow me to introduce again. In the spiritual spell visual projection was an exquisitely decorated stage. The male host dressed in a black suit sat across from 3 people, and the person sitting in the outermost chair was a white-haired mage dressed in a white mage's robe and a pointy hat. This is the most influential and authoritative Master Oth, who is a special advisor of the Crystal Workshop, a workshop on the same level as the Dulin Workshop. He is also a special level instructor of the Dusk Cloud Mystical Realm Workshop Academy. The mage dressed in the white mage's robe stood up and waved at the audience. Awesome! These young people stared at this master with widened eyes. Sitting beside him was a middle-aged mage dressed in a dark grey mage's robe with a reagent bottle embroidered on the chest. This is Master Li Wood, an honorable advisor in the Worldly Alchemist Union, and he has achieved extremely high skills in the field of alchemy. At this moment, Mercenary Crete was also watching this spiritual spell visual projection and saw a stout middle-aged priest dressed in a red robe sit in the innermost seat on the screen. Isn't that Payable? That Mr. Payable of the Judgment Godly Palace. What are they talking about? Beside him, another mercenary had just arrived, and he asked curiously. I think they seem to be talking about this Blizzard workshop. Crete listened for a while and said, the fame of World of Warcraft has spread so far out already. The things that Mr. Payable has just mentioned, such as negligence at work while watching the spiritual spell visual projection of World of Warcraft, are quite common, so I won't dive into them again. On the spiritual spell visual projection, the mage in the white mage's robe said while gesturing with his hands, the purpose that we use mystical realms for is to obtain strength in a more efficient way. However, the mystical realm known as World of Warcraft, which was imported recently from the East Continent, has become a piece of entertainment. For example, people view the scenery and even tour all over the world in the realm. They have become fans of natural scenery and fans of stories. They are obsessed with the game and have neglected their work. At this moment, the elves who were enjoying the scenery in World of Warcraft and the knights of the Golden Griffin Knight Legion who were engrossed in the plot of the quest of love and family sneezed repeatedly. Hey! One elf glanced around in confusion. Who's talking about us? According to the research that I've done in recent years, 99% of the people obsessed in entertainment activities can achieve nothing in their lives, the master named Oth said. The remaining 1% could only obtain much fewer achievements than they were supposed to have. The mage dressed in the white mage's robe gestured and said, obviously, the mystical realms from the East Continent workshops are going in this improper direction and are trying to influence our people with this bad style. I think our people must be wary of it, Master Oth said with great dignity. The male host nodded and lowered his eyes to glance at the paper in his hand. Interestingly, another master has done similar research. About 50,000 people had been surveyed. These people had talents to be warriors or mages but also were frequently engaged in entertainment activities. It was found that only a few hundred out of the 50,000 people have obtained some achievements. The result is very close to that of Master Oth's research. The issue that Master Oth just mentioned is very severe. Master Li Wood, who had brown curly hair and was dressed in the alchemist's robe, said with a smile, but I think we must pay attention to another more severe problem. It exists in the legend of Sword and Fairy in the agency shop named Origins Internet Club. I wonder if you guys have heard of this mystical realm. The others looked baffled, which showed that this mystical realm was obviously not as famous as World of Warcraft. In this mystical realm, they say I control my destiny and not the heavens. I think it will severely mislead the people who cultivate in this mystical realm. More importantly, this mystical realm is a comprehensive one which consists of skills for people from beginners to level 9 masters, which is why I'm afraid that the young people will turn blindly arrogant after learning this idea. Master Li Wood said with a sarcastic smile, besides, I got the news yesterday that they made a god into an evil and funny clown in the Avengers which was newly released. It's blasphemy. The most important thing is that it has no academic ground to do so. As everyone knows, we must base our mystical realms on academic evidence since we use the mystical realms for cultivation. We can't allow these mystical realms to mislead people who enter them for cultivation. Let's look at the one on the top, the host read. It seems to come from a level 2 mage student from an academy. It's unbelievable. This Blizzard workshop is despicable. Ever since my roommate started using the mystical realm created by the Blizzard workshop, he keeps bragging about it each day, saying that Blizzard is the #1 in the world, as if our current mystical realms are all garbage. I'm being harassed by him. I just love using the mystical realms of the Crystal Workshop. Why should he mind my business? Oh. Haha. The host snickered. The roommate of this level 2 mage student sure is confident. He is saying that Blizzard is the #1 in the world? This young man is such a boastful person. If you encounter someone like this, you'd better ask your instructor to move you to another dorm room. This is the problem that I've mentioned before, Master Oth said. The ideas in their mystical realms will turn these kids blindly arrogant. It's only a new mystical realm workshop, and people are already boasting it and saying that it is the #1 in the world. I admit that this Blizzard workshop must have a high position in the East continent, but it needs at least dozens of years to reach a high level in our continent. Okay, the host said with a nod, let's see the next message. I'm in a lousy mood. I argued with my lover the day before yesterday, and he said that he doesn't need a lover now that he has his games. Go to hell, World of Warcraft. Go to hell, Blizzard Workshop. Oh. Ho ho, the host said while laughing, this is indeed a serious issue. But girl, just keep away from these people who can't appreciate you. Before he could finish, he saw the next message. Today, I played the World of Warcraft with my lover. It was so fun that I just couldn't stop. I feel like our love deepened during the process. The host froze with the sudden urge of burning this couple to death. Ha 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 ha. The people who were watching the show on the White Pigeon Square burst into laughter. At this moment, Master Oth immediately continued, poor people, they are oblivious to the fact that they have been eroded by this entertainment mystical realm. Did you notice that she used the word play? Oh. My son doesn't look right ever since he touched World of Warcraft. Can you imagine? There are many good girls in the academy, but he claims that he wants to marry an orc girl. He even said that the deer in Origins Internet Club, that agency shop, is super cute. I hope you can help me. Oh. What a poor mother. Let's read the next message. The host continued to read, I'm a shop owner of an agency shop for a middle-size mystical realm workshop in the Morning Light Empire. I'm going crazy lately. The big workshops like the Dulin workshop and Lava workshop are fine, but smaller ones such as my shop have been getting less and less business lately. This foreign agency shop has driven us to despair. Our customers say that our mystical realms are not good enough. But my goodness, how can our mystical realm workshop make better products if we can't make more money? The next message read, my companions and I have always believed in the God of radiant light judgment. But recently, one of them changed his faith to the holy light. My goodness! One of the citizens in our faithful nation changed his faith. At this moment, even Payable, who was sitting next to Master Oth, opened his mouth. Payable said, I think the other issues are not as severe as the one we're talking about right now. Right, Master Oth said, a master alchemist friend in my workplace once predicted that the foreign workshop's novel and fun methods of attracting customers would have a huge impact on the small to mid-size mystical realm workshops. The biggest impact is that these workshops might go bankrupt. As everyone knows, many nations provided aid to the mystical realm workshops in their territory. If this situation continues, these nations will lose lots of money. This is a disguised method of weakening their national power. In the faithful nations, the people all have their own ancient faiths, Payable said, if they changed their faiths one day, are they still citizens of those nations? Master Oth said loudly, therefore, playing the so-called World of Warcraft and the Legend of Sword and Fairy is almost an act of treason. Hiss! Playing World of Warcraft equals to treason. The audience on the White Pigeon Square was stupefied. After listening to their conversation for a while, the audience found that this conclusion sounded logical. After the Dulin workshop's attempt to enter the elf clan, the elves had learned their lesson and would occasionally watch the news about the mystical realms in the human world. At this moment, an old elf was also watching this program with some middle-aged and old elves. The silver-haired and silver-bearded old elf suddenly shook, and he blinked as if he was still dazed. Treason! One of our elders is taking a team to play this so-called World of Warcraft. Does it mean? The sun gradually set, and a few returning birds flew across the darkening sky. The program on the spiritual spell visual projection at the White Pigeon Square finally ended. Of course, apart from the White Pigeon Square, there were many other broadcasting spots in other nations. At this moment, Payable walked out of the recording hall and warmly shook hands with the masters. Your opinions are very valuable. It was a great decision to invite you guys to this program. Mr. Payable, don't worry, Master Oth said, we are the most professional and authoritative names in this field. Master Oth has studied this area for dozens of years. Before that, he had studied areas related to alchemy. Beside them, Master Li Wood said with a smile. Master Li Wood is not inferior. A while ago, he published the theory of gold and rock which caused a great sensation in the world of alchemy. Ha 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 ha. Meanwhile, the elves and knights in the shop were still oblivious of the comments claiming that playing games in Origin's internet cafe was treason. The elves were standing around the counter with eagerness in their eyes. Sir! When will Outlast be released? Mr. Fang touched his head. Tomorrow, maybe. Mr. Fang had been receiving devilish training from the system on and off, but I can only say that I'm doing my best. Meanwhile, the customers in the old shops sent Mr. Fang messages while they walked to the counter. Sir, is Outlast released or not? When will the players in the new shop get to play it? I say, why are you guys asking if others are playing the game? They were so diligent that they asked Mr. Fang the same question every day. In the new shop, most of the players were still playing World of Warcraft, but some players were waiting to try new stuff. After all, there were many leisure players in online games. Now that the earliest players had reached the maximum level, Sala and other players like her just followed her teammates and obtained the first victory in battlegrounds each day before going around to see the scenery. Therefore, these people had lots of time to do stuff. Naturally, such players wanted to try the new game. Outlast. Mr. Fang looked more confident today. It's released. It's released today. Really? Sala exclaimed. Mr. Fang knocked on the small blackboard, and Sala followed the direction that his finger pointed and saw the words. New game Outlast. Activation price, 15 magic crystals. Then, can we play it now? Sala said in pleasant surprise, then, I'll go and activate it right away. Would you please pour a mug of cappuccino for me? Just play the game. Do you have to have cappuccino? Why not? Don't mind me. While rolling her eyes at Mr. Fang, Sala looked quite proud. I just like it. Okay. 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 Anyway, I'm making money from this. Mr. Fang wanted to drink cappuccino as well, so he took the opportunity to pour himself a mug. At this moment, a group of elves and assassins sat down at the computers close to the windows in excitement. Sala took the mug of cappuccino from Mr. Fang and sipped it with enjoyment, cheerfully activating the new game with the money deposited in her membership card. Nana, would you like to play it with me? Sala asked Alina, who sat across from her. It seems like we can't connect the game. Alina said while loading the game, we can play it separately and talk about it when we get some inspirations. Okay. Sala entered the game cheerfully. After all, Sala wasn't even afraid of the evil god. After her experience with the Avengers, she felt quite confident when she entered Outlast. Before Sala was a dim and messy room, which was the background when she entered the game. On the screen were options such as New Game and Load Game drawn in pale lines. Different from the original game, the system version only offered 2 difficulty levels after players entered the game. One was Nightmare, which was the normal difficulty, and the other was Insane, which was a higher difficulty level. At the beginning, the word Insane was grey, which meant that the players could only choose Nightmare. In Insane mode, the chapters couldn't be saved before they were completed. Once the players were dead, all the progress would vanish, and they had to start from the beginning. Naturally, this mode wasn't open for newbies to try. In the original game, when the players entered it, the game would introduce the main character and the background in words. However, the system version was different. After Sala entered the game, she opened her eyes slowly as if she had just woken from a dream in which she had turned into an elf in a world named the Nora continent and had lived a long time in there. Now that she had woken up from the dream, she remembered that she was, in fact, a journalist named Miles. Yes, this feeling was so real that Sala got the illusion that the real world was fake, and this game world was real. Even after the players entered the game, they would still have a blurry sense of surrealism when they recalled things that they had experienced in the real world. In the game, players even had the illusion that the whole world was materialistic, and the intangible things such as magic spells, essence, and combat techniques were exaggerated products of movies and TV series. It was because the players' minds were influenced by the main character. In the game, Sala opened her eyes slowly and thought, I'm now Miles? A journalist? I have a plan to reveal the dark core secrets of that Mount Massive Asylum. Shaking her head, Sala finally remembered that this was a virtual reality gaming space and that exiting the game would get her back to the real world. After she understood the situation, the game finally began. When she drove to the destination, it was midnight. Of course, to save game time, the driving part could be skipped. Right now, Sala was driving on the mountainous road near the destination. The surroundings were pitch black, as if she was driving in a wilderness in midnight. Even with the headlights on, she could only see a few meters before her. Beyond that was thick darkness. She continued driving as if she was heading into the endless darkness. After a long while, she finally saw lights at the end of the mud road. Yes, in this role-playing game, Sala played as a Western journalist who always dreamt of finding a big story. Have you guys entered the game yet? Sala asked while driving. Since the main character could drive, Sala could do the driving part by following the memories of the character, just as the players did in the offline mode of Grand Theft Auto 5. Since it was night, she drove slowly and thus encountered no accidents. I've already driven to the asylum now, Alina said, but isn't the game named Outlast? I've covered a big distance now and seen no danger at all. After driving through the open iron gates outside the hospital, the main character parked the car and walked in curiously with a video camera that was taken out from the car. It was very dark, and no one seemed to be in the hospital. In the places without lighting, she could only see the surroundings with the night vision of the video camera. Walking in from the side door, the main character saw all kinds of greeneries along the curving corridor. The high building in front of her looked like a modern-styled castle. Of course, this was only a relatively old hospital. Should we try that live stream? Sala suggested. Although the live stream software had just been released in the new shop, with their knowledge of the spiritual spell visual projection which was popular on this continent, these people knew that they could show off their gameplay more clearly this way. Chapter 722 How come you slid under the desk during your live stream? It had been operating in secret. Upon receiving a tip-off from an anonymous source inside his hospital, freelance journalist Miles Upshur came here to disclose the criminal conduct of this company with his video camera. The players were in the role of this brave journalist in the game. This was the general plot of Outlast. Oh! I saw that several new streamers are live streaming Outlast. In the Yuanyang City shop, some players had experienced the horror in Silent Hill. Those who hadn't played it had heard of this extremely horrifying game from other players. So, when they found that Outlast was a game of the same kind, they didn't enter it as soon as it was released. Instead, they wanted to see if other players played it and planned to watch the live stream of the game first. Among the students of Heavenly Academy, Mu Qing was one such player. Soon, many other students such as Yu Bai and Tang Yu also looked over. Someone's live streaming it. I'll watch it. At this moment, with a bottle of iced red tea in one hand and her communication jade in the other, Su Tianji was sitting on the spiritual ship that was flying toward Zhuhua City. While sipping iced red tea, she browsed the messages in the communication jade. Master! Master! Holding a communication jade, her disciple Fenghua yelled, "Here! An elf is live streaming Outlast! There is more than one of them!" The other disciple Yuexin shrieked, "Many elves are live streaming Outlast! Let me see!" Su Tianji immediately clicked on her communication jade. Then, she randomly clicked on one link and saw it was indeed an elf. This elf looks familiar. I'll watch her then. Besides these people, many other players in the old shops were watching the live streams too. Sala only live streamed for a little while and found that there were hundreds of people watching her right now. Yay, so many people! As an elf with a sense of justice, I must stop the villains from doing evil things here, Sala yelled with indignation while controlling the main character to walk deeper into the hospital. I shall disclose the evil going on in this place. We'll enter this place and see what's inside. With that said, she walked directly toward the main gate. After entering through the big iron gates of the walled property, she found that door of the hospital was closed. Let's enter through the door, Sala explained to her audience as she pushed the door. Clank! 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 Is anyone in there? Sala controlled the main character to push the door, making clanking noises. Sala pushed so much that her hands went numb. Ugh! I can't push it open. She began to pull the door. Clank! 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 She made huge sounds and she pounded on the door. Boom! 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 Everyone watched as the elf wildly pounded the door of the psychiatric hospital. What's this elf doing here? The audience were stupefied by the scene. Oh! I must enter and use Muzu. What's happening? Let me show off my skills. Sala had imagined her fancy plans, but she couldn't even open the door at this moment. She was extremely frustrated at this moment. No idea, now, we know that the main door can't be open. Seeming to realize that she had lost her composure due to her impatience to show off her skills, Sala immediately calmed down and said, "Then, we must find an entrance from the side." In some areas, this game was similar to Assassin's Creed, climbing was one of them. Of course, as an ordinary person, the main character couldn't climb as well as the main characters in Assassin's Creed. The main character here had to grab onto wooden frames on one side of the hospital to assist before being able to climb into the building through a window. The room behind the window had been lit, but as soon as Sala jumped in, the light flashed twice and turned dark instantly. Even the audience could see nothing but darkness on the screens. The main character had sensed the thick darkness and ominous atmosphere that engulfed the whole place when driving here. Now, these negative presences seemed to have intensified. At this moment, the ominous feeling and suffocating atmosphere were even more obvious. "Oh, it's so dark inside." While sipping iced red tea, Su Tianji watched the live stream, thinking that it was a bit creepy in the building. Standing in the room, Sala had a totally different feeling. Through the main character's body, she could feel the darkness pressing on her like a pile of heavy and invisible rocks. It would be no big deal if Sala imagined such a scenario during the day. However, standing there at midnight, she felt chills running down her spine and couldn't help but wonder if something would suddenly jump out from the deep darkness around her. As an ordinary person, Miles could influence the players with his thoughts and senses. The suffocating feeling forced Sala to draw in a deep breath. Then, she quickly turned on the video camera and checked the surroundings with the night vision. Since the surroundings were so dark that one couldn't see their own fingers without the video camera, the players had to observe the world through the video camera with night view mode. Through the night view mode, everything was grayish-green like the creepy supernatural scenes in the old movies. "How come I feel like something is not right?" While holding the video camera, Sala felt her way in the darkness and said to the audience in her live stream room. But this main character. His heart rate so fast that Sala could even hear the thumping heartbeats while an excruciating headache attacked her. Sala couldn't decide if it was a result of the lack of oxygen caused by the high pressure that the main character felt or it was her own problem. After inhaling deeply, she held her breath and exhaled slowly. She didn't dare to exhale too fast to make noises. In this state, she couldn't use any of her combat strength even if she had it, let alone that she didn't possess any combat strength at all in the game. Creak. Perhaps it was due to wind or other reasons, the narrow window closed by itself. In the silent room, the rattling noises made by the wind blowing on the air duct were especially ear-grating. With the light coming from the hall through the glass window on the side of the room, Sala finally turned off her video camera. The only exit for her was the half-open door on her right. "It seems like no one is here," Sala told the audience and pushed open the door. "Ah!" The character on the screen jumped in fright. A corpse hung before the main character upside down, and the light flashed twice. Sipping iced red tea, Su Tianji watched the live stream and said, "Ha ha ha! This elf is so fun to watch. She jumps when she is scared." Who? Seeing that it was a corpse, Sala heaved out a breath of relief. "It gave me such a fright." Hurriedly, she explained to the audience, "This is nothing. He, let's move on." She hadn't shown off her skills yet. Controlling the main character, Sala ventured deeper inside. Walking down the path through the rooms, she walked to the other side of the corridor. The atmosphere felt even creepier. She seemed to hear someone talk around the corner at the end of the corridor, but when she walked over, no one was there. The path before her was blocked by a desk and a wooden shelf, but she could squeeze through by walking sideways. "This game looks simple, huh?" Sala said while slowly squeezing through the crevice between the bookshelf and the desk. At this moment, she felt that a cold hand grabbed her shoulder. She turned her head and saw a fat and nightmarishly distorted face. Before she could have a clear look, her body broke through the window behind her and flew out of it, which was several floors high. Ah! Ah! In a flash, Sala exited from virtual reality mode. While putting down her virtual reality headset, she stood up and slipped. At this moment, most of the players in the internet cafe were all in the games, and a few players were walking past in the corridor with bowls of instant noodles in their hands. Suddenly, they heard a scream. Clank! A noise sounded. Everyone looked over, and they saw an elf getting up from under the desk and looking at the people around her in confusion. Dust was all over her hair and face. What? How come you slid under the desk while live streaming? I just slipped. Slipped. With a red face, Sala returned to her computer chair and explained with great dignity and a please believe me look. Meanwhile, Mr. Fang was chatting in a group chat in QQ with a bowl of instant noodles in his hands. I stood behind an elf and watched her play out last. I lowered my head to eat noodles, and when I looked up, she had fallen under the desk. Pu. Su Tianji, who was also watching Sala's live stream, almost had a spit take when this message suddenly popped up. So dumb and cute. Ha 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 ha. I was watching it too. Ha 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 ha, smiley face. She was squeezing through a bookshelf when a fat guy jumped her. Yubai also quickly posted a message in the group. Then, she vanished from the camera. Now I know that she slid under the desk. Sala had just snapped back to her senses, and she glanced at the messages in her live stream room. Elder Su sent you 666 goose eggs. Young Master Song gifted you 10 awesome. Ji Yang of Royal Clan Guild gifted, hey. So many people sent gifts to me. This was Sala's first live stream, and she felt incredulous. Sala, where are you now? Alina, who was sitting across from her, asked. Someone just threw me down the building. He suddenly appeared while I was squeezing through the crack and couldn't run away. It scared me. At this moment, Sala hadn't re-entered the game yet. You were caught off guard by his sudden appearance, right? Alina said, you didn't have any warning. However, as an assassin, Alina's mind was stronger than Sala's. Nana, are you still in the game? Sala asked in a hurry. I am. Really? Sala replied and wasn't willing to admit defeat. Then, I'll play some more. That guy wasn't so scary, he just caught me off guard. Right. Don't be paranoid. Alina said while playing the game, I'll find a good weapon and show you how to fight. Yay! You're so good. Sala looked at Alina in surprise. Since these two sat facing each other, Sala couldn't see Alina's screen. At this moment, on Alina's screen, she was filming her surroundings with the video camera. Hey? It's a dead end, she looked for a long while until she discovered something above her. So, there is a vent that I can get into. No one has tried to throw me down yet. I haven't seen him. All I saw were dead bodies. At this moment Nana isn't afraid at all. Sala sat straighter. Okay, we'll continue the live stream. As an elf with the sense of justice, I can't stop until I reveal all the criminal acts in here. Hey! This elf is continuing with her live stream. The audience continued to watch cheerfully. After entering the game again, Sala felt as if all the bones in her body would dislocate. However, the main character was lucky that he didn't die of the fall or even break any bones. However, the main character's internal organs had obviously received shocks and damage. He felt dizzy with ringing in his ears and was listless. A priest suddenly appeared, mumbling something unintelligible. He gave the main character an injection which made the latter feel better. Of course, one injection couldn't heal all the injuries caused by the fall from several floors high. His physical conditions were obviously not good. If you were in your physical prime, you wouldn't feel very frightened when you ventured into a dangerous place. However, if you almost died from a fall and was greatly weakened by it, it wasn't hard to imagine how you would feel in such an extremely dangerous place. This weak feeling, both physically and mentally, also reflected on the player. Obviously, the main task of the game had changed. The main character had come here to do an investigation, but now his task was fleeing from this place. At this moment, Sala felt like her body was as heavy as lead. How can I continue the game like this? She wanted to quit from the game. The game was totally different from what she had imagined. She was not only an ordinary person but was severely injured. How can I use Muzu in such a state? In such a state, even a legendary saint-level master would probably be knocked down by an ordinary person with a club. The most important thing was that Sala's head felt dizzy while her body felt numb. She would feel better if she was in a healthy state, at least she would know what to do and would have the energy to dodge an attack. But now, I feel like I had the ability to fight that monster before I fell. While panting, Sala opened her mouth and explained, in fact, I'm not so faint-hearted. You guys must trust me. Before I fell, I had the ability to fight that monster. But now, let's see how I can get out of this place. Obviously, this hospital was fully enclosed. Now that she fell from upstairs, she lost her chance to go back the way she came. In the enclosed lobby and rooms, only a few places had lights and got rid of darkness. However, the areas around the dimly lit places were still pitch black, looking even darker due to the effects of the lights. Walking through the corridor on one side of the lobby, Sala saw bloodstains everywhere and even headless corpses. This one must be dead. Sala swallowed with difficulty, feeling dizzy due to her poor physical conditions. It can't get up again, right? While sipping iced red tea, Su Tianji posted a bullet comment, "This kind of game released by this shop is all scary." Tang Yu said, "I think this elf is faint-hearted. I just saw another elf who's bolder than her." Hey! Sala was displeased at this bullet comment and demanded while slamming her hand on the desk, "I'm not afraid. It was just an accident. The message says that I'm faint-hearted and another elf is brave. That's unbearable. I must redeem myself. Otherwise, the players in the old shops will laugh at me." While holding her breath, Sala tiptoed into the pitch-black room and tried to find some clues, continuing with the game. "In a while, I'll show you how I get away from this place. This Outlast is just an escape game. Although the safest escape is killing all the enemies, but my physical conditions don't allow me to do that. But still, I have had special trainings on survival skills. If you didn't know that they were humans, you would think that they were monsters to begin with. It would be best not to be caught by them. If you were caught by them, you might end up worse than in a supernatural phenomenon. You could never imagine what an unhinged half-human, half-monster being would do to you." In the Yuanyang City shop, the students were watching this elf's live stream while eating potato chips. On the screen, Sala bent down and sneaked into a control room. "So lame." Mu Qing crunched on potato chips and posted a bullet comment. "I feel like she's making herself into a ball and rolling forward." Tang Yu and other students enjoyed this live stream very much. On the screen, Sala's ears perked up like those of a rabbit while she glanced around the room. Seeing no danger, Sala said, "This must be the place, right?" Then, she heaved a sigh of relief. Next, Sala began to use the computer in the document room. Since the main character knew how to use computers, she had no problems logging into the computer and began unlocking the main gate. "After I open the gate in this control room, I can get out, right? It feels so simple," Sala said while she operated the computer. At this moment, a creepy figure suddenly appeared on the surveillance monitor beside the computer. "Ah!" Her hand shook, and the mouse flew out of her hand. Sala looked at the surveillance monitor and saw that the priest who had appeared after the main character fell from upstairs pulled down the power switch with a cracking sound. The entire control room was instantly plunged into darkness. Meanwhile, the voice of the fat demon-like monster sounded outside the door. In total darkness, Sala could tell that the footsteps were slowly moving toward this room. There was no exit except for the door. Sala had nowhere else to go. She was trapped. "Ah!" Sala screamed inside, getting anxious in the room as she quickly walked around. "There's a locker behind you. Hide in the locker. Ha 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 ha. This elf is so afraid. Ha 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 ha, I think she'll faint in fear. Enjoying the live stream, Su Tianji posted bullet comments and sipped iced red tea. Obviously, it wasn't scary to experience the game through the screen. Master, do you think this elf will be caught? Feng Qi asked. While the monster-like man broke down the door and entered the room, Sala instantly slipped into the locker behind her. Through the slit on the locker and with the aid of the dim light outside the control room, Sala watched as the fat man searched the room and roared in a low voice, "You were here, right?" Then, Sala saw the monster walking toward the locker that she was hiding in. Clank! The locker next to the one that she was hiding in was opened. This monster didn't seem to find anything. Then, Sala heard a series of faint footsteps. It seemed like this man was walking toward her locker. A drop of cold sweat slid down Sala's face when she heard the footsteps getting closer. How about bursting out of the locker? Someone tentatively suggested with a bullet comment. Right. 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 If you burst out now, you will certainly catch him off guard. The students in Yuanyang City shop who were crunching away potato chips immediately posted bullet comments. Then, I will go out now, I really mean it, clank. Sala pushed open the door of the locker. Ah! Then, she raced out as if her pants were on fire. This elf was so fast that even the fat man who was about to open the locker door froze with his hand reaching out. Ah! She vanished in a flash. My goodness, can this journalist run this fast? The audience froze after seeing that. While the audience enjoyed the live stream, something was happening in an alchemy room on the other side of the world. Exquisite statues were placed around the alchemy room, and promotional posters of Forgotten Forest, the mystical realm made by the Crystal Workshop, were hung on the wall. It's annoying, words jumped on the magic letter. Lately, more and more people are beginning to sing high praise of Blizzard. I'm angry whenever I hear them bragging about the so-called Blizzard Workshop. I'm furious. Yesterday, I bought a mystical realm made by the Crystal Workshop and was looked down by a player of World of Warcraft. What's wrong with the mystical realm made by the Crystal Workshop? World of Warcraft has a complete world which seems endless, why would I want such a big mystical realm anyway? From Mage Deli of Stars Magic Union. How come their mystical realms are so good? Some players of the Legend of Sword and Fairy brag about it every day in front of me. I can't argue with them, all I can do say that they have a servile attitude to foreign things. They even boast that it's the origin of the world. Anyway, I trash talk Blizzard Workshop, Soft Star Workshop and Ubisoft Workshop every day since I feel annoyed whenever I see people using their mystical realms. Damn it! When I praised the new mystical realm of the Dulin Workshop last time, someone immediately rebutted me with the alleged Dulin Workshop's failure in Silver Moon Forest. I was so furious. However, I just can't argue with them, everything I say sounds weak. At this moment, a mage commented, "Didn't you watch the last episode of Secrets of Mystical Realms?" Master Oth and Master Li Wood both expressed their opinions in the show, saying that the Legend of Sword and Fairy beautifies stealing since one of the female characters is a big thief. They even proved how playing World of Warcraft and the Legend of Sword and Fairy equals to treason. What? Playing these games equals to treason? The mage who had been lounging on a recliner immediately bolted up as if he had just been given a shot of stimulant. He commented excitedly, "Well said. When did they say that? I want to watch it." These are the conclusions that those masters made after thorough investigation and research. The mage who previous commented replied. Soon, many more messages appeared on the magic letter. "Keep away from these mystical realms," masters issued warnings. I'm astonished. Mystical realms quality doesn't increase with the degree of complexity. Masters said that mystical realms need professionalism. Masters said that using these mystical realms might be treason, let's see if you are using them. My goodness! Instantly, these people felt like they stood on the moral high ground. Today, I'll repost them all. Ha 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 ha. I feel like we are waging a holy war, comrades. Tell you a secret. I slipped into the magic forum of World of Warcraft, and I'm sure Bedlam will break out when I post these messages in the forum. Aren't you afraid that they will beat you? How can they? They don't know where I am. The problem is, these claims don't have any supporting evidence. I don't care as long as they can give those people who love to brag a blow. Ha 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 ha. Right. I'll post them to all the people around me anonymously. Mage Deli commented, I know a damn kid near me who plays World of Warcraft and keeps bragging about it in front of me. Today, I'll send these messages to his dad. Seeing this, I'm sure that his dad will give him a good beating when he brags about Blizzard again. Ha 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 ha. Meanwhile, in the distant Silver Moon Forest, a silver-haired old elf read these messages and said, these human masters seem to have solid data and facts. Elder, should we go to the so-called Origins Internet Club with some people and see what Elder Sewell is up to? Worked up by the word treason, these elves wanted to check things out with some people as if treason was being committed right now. Okay. You will be terrified, all my preparations were in vain. Sala felt like crying in the game. In the darkness, she filmed her surroundings with her video camera, clutching onto it like a precious treasure that her mom gave her. Trying to survive and escape from so many monsters as an ordinary person who would have great difficulty catching a chicken, Sala felt like she was going crazy. The most depressing part wasn't being caught but listening to the footsteps of that fat monster while she hid in the darkness. When it came close to her hideout, her heart would always be in her throat. Besides, whenever she was about to finish the quest and get out, the priest would always stop her at the critical moment, turning all the efforts to waste. Then, she had to continue her investigation in this extremely creepy place. Having played for a few hours, Sala wondered, how come this game is so scary? In the beginning, Sala had marched up to the gate of the hospital without a care and pounded on the gate of the hospital. But now, she felt like she was going crazy in this game. At this moment, Sala's movements seemed to have alerted the deranged inmate who was trapped in a chair. This man's shouts attracted the attention of all the nearby inmates. These monsters who had been crazily tortured and mutated in the experiments had stronger physiques than ordinary people. Ah! Seeing them smashing on the locked doors on both sides of the room and trying to break in, Sala was suffocating with fear. Sala raced away while screaming. Ha 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 ha! This elf runs so fast. Sala thought, I almost died of fright, how can I not run fast? Which way should I go? I guess this way. Frantically, Sala pulled open a door and dashed inside. Who are you? You're not one of them, right? At this moment, an electronic voice came from an unknown source, if you want to live, come into this small lift. Sure enough, there was a very small lift which could have been mistaken as a chimney or an air duct if one didn't look carefully. Without thinking, Sala got into it. In the next moment, a large group of deranged inmates knocked down the doors and swarmed in. Sala could even see them rushing toward her location before the lift went up. With her heart in her throat, Sala thought that she was out of danger when the lift went up. However, when Sala went up with the lift, a brawny monster swung out a punch and said, "You made the right decision, sir." This monster's skin on his upper body seemed to have been torn open to reveal bloody flesh, and the lower half of his distorted face was covered by filthy bandages. Ah! When Sala woke up again, she found herself locked in a wheelchair. At this moment, Sala swiftly put down her virtual reality headset and looked at her screen as the main character got his fingers amputated. Ah! Sala felt lucky that she had scrambled to exit the virtual reality mode in time. She was going to go crazy. Then, without any bandages or any medication, the main character had to continue the rest of the exploration after two of his fingers were amputated. It had been creepy to watch the two bloody amputated fingers while climbing in the original version of the game. Now in the system version, the players also had to endure everything that the main character felt, including blood loss while they continued the game. I quit. Without hesitation, Sala quitted from the game while her pretty face paled. She was thrown into a very bad mood. The shop owner had been playing games at a nearby computer, and Sala dragged him over and pointed at her screen while saying, "Sir, how can I continue playing this game? F***ck. This game, Outlast, is thrilling." The players in the old shops obviously had a different feeling. After all, they had watched it on the screens. The students of Heavenly Academy and the idle players in the Jihua City shop didn't play the game but had watched it on live stream for most of the day. These people even talked about it in the group chat and had heated discussions. The elf whom I watched ran so fast. I watched her run all around the place. Which one did you watch? I watched the elf with poisonous milk. Even SIA of the Ultimate West Realm joined the discussion. What elf with poisonous milk? Ning Bai asked in the group chat. Didn't you see last time, the nanny that Mr. Fang took to raid the Scarlet Monastery? SIA posted a screenshot. Ha 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 ha. These elves are all funny. I watched the elf who slid down the desk. Demonic woman Ning Bai also posted a screenshot. Not knowing if she should laugh or cry, Yu Bai said, I wonder if the elves will kill us if they knew. Mu Qing chimed in, but I just can't stop it. Ha ha ha. At this moment, Sala noticed that messages were popping up in her World of Warcraft group chat. While she read the messages in the group, her eyes instantly widened. Ugh! Hey! How come you guys even took screenshots? Sala wished that she could go over through the internet cable and kill them all, so no one would talk about her humiliating acts. Everyone turned silent. How come this elf is in the group? Nalan Minxu replied, she's my playmate in the game. Husky's disdainful face. Mr. Fang was standing beside Sala at this moment, and he tried to soothe her. This is a horror game, it's unnatural if you're not scared. I thought it was a comedy game. Sala had the sudden urge to kill the shop owner. How come this shop does things so differently? I braced myself to watch the so-called evil god and ended up laughing like a pig. Now in this game, we were prepared to show off our fighting skills against these monsters who have low combat strength, but we ended up wetting our pants due to fear. I even put the whole process on live stream. It's all your fault. He's a scummy shop owner. Mr. Fang touched his head and replied, it has nothing to do with me. You guys kept asking me when Outlast would be released, you even trash-talked me as a scummy shop owner every day when I didn't release this game, it's your fault. It's all your fault. Hearing the shop owner toss their own words back at them, Sala and the other elves were furious. Hey! Don't be like this. Obviously not able to continue the game, many elves around Sala also put down their virtual reality headsets. Sir, is this mystic realm designed for people to play? Why isn't it? Come and play if you dare. The elves glared at Mr. Fang as if they would eat him alive. Afraid that what they said didn't hold enough weight, these elves added in a hurry, otherwise we won't come back to the shop to play again. Humph! Of course, these elves amended silently, if the scummy shop owner refuses to do it, we'll still come back and play the games despite the humiliation in the worst-case scenario. In the other mystic realms, they could fight or flee using their skills. After some practice, they could manage by themselves. But in this game, they couldn't even use a sliver of their skills. Despite their powerful strength and skills, they couldn't bring any of them into the game. How could they finish the game?